Welcome to Fire Breathing Kittens, an actual play podcast. Every episode microplot is a complete adventure with a beginning and an end that fits into the overarching macroplot of the whole season. Because they stand sturdily on their own, you can listen to these adventures in any order and can skip any you don't enjoy. Today, we are playing using the mechanics from a game called Pocket Gumshoe by Nothing Ventured Games. It's our first time playing, so we might make some mistakes. If you enjoy these mechanics, you can find Pocket Gumshoe on DriveThruRPG. Build your own Pocket Gumshoe character and play a game with friends. Speaking of friends, today we are joined by Rusty.
This is Rusty Sherhoof here, joining y'all this fine day.
And Ailbh Goldbeard.
Why, good evening, kittens.
And Arethor Goic.
Well, hello. It's lovely to be here today again. You'll find that I'm a calico catfolk in a somewhat rumpled but recently ironed suit with sort of shiny patches in places. Looking forward to adventuring today.
Excellent. You are all in the Fire Breathing Kittens Guild Hall in Nicomoy. The guild is a large building with a bar, a seating area with wooden tables and chairs, and a wall with a corkboard and job flyers posted. Today is Nicomoy's annual festival of love, and you all have mail waiting for you. It's customary on Love Day to buy your parents a gift to honor the parental love. Rusty, what did you send Mom and Dad?
I know if on this fine day of love, I thought that'd be mighty appropriate for me to send them this delicious jam that I found here in Nicomoy. Just something sweet and local that reminds me of all the delicious meals that we've shared together around our family table.
Arethor, what did you send your mother?
Well, my mother's always been partial to peppermint, and so I've sent her a lovely package of those clear cellophane-wrapped white peppermints with the red stripes around the edges. You know, the kind that every older person seems to have a pocket full of.
And Ailbh, we know your parents are not with us anymore. Did you send a gift to anybody to celebrate parental love this day?
We did. My sister Leg and I, we donned our finest kilt and we went to where they're buried. We went to their headstones and we left them a little gift just as something we do every year on this love day. We take time. Normally my brothers would join us also. However, they were taken. They sent messages for us to leave. However, it was just my sister and I. We left a small keepsake. We'll keep that to ourselves. That's personal. But
all right. Also, in the post, you've all received some letters from past clients that you've helped or personal connections because it's Love Day. So in your stacks of mail, you have a letter, Ailbh, you have a letter from Emil Safiosi and Robin Banks thanking you for helping them at the party. And at least in one case, I think you were instrumental in someone's survival.
Well, sort of. Alexander McJohn was there. He's a brewer, I suppose. He's a bit of a nasty creature, if you ask me. He actually stole one of my recipes and through it he put some medicinal, rather addictive substance through his beer, and that did save Robin. So indirectly, I suppose, I did save her. It was a horrible situation to find ourselves in. Emil being attacked like that at the party of young Ivy.
Well, she sent you a thank you note for your friendship.
Oh, that is wonderful.
And Arethor, you received a thank you letter from the Alchemist of Hush.
Oh, that's just lovely. I haven't thought about them in quite some time. I'm glad that we could help her when we did.
Also, on Love Day, you notice that there are little origami birds flying through the air in Nicomoy. And for those who aren't native to this city, these are enchanted little love notes that are sent to the object of one's closest affection. So it's that celebrates a more romantic love. Unfortunately, and for various reasons, none of you have received one of those today. Alas. But some of your fellow guild members are delightedly plucking them out of the air and reading them. There's also a letter for Rusty from his good friend Tess. It's written rather hastily on a scrap of paper that seems to have been torn out of a book. And it says, help, think I'm being arrested. Meet me on the rooftop of the jailhouse if I get out. Otherwise inside. And it just
Tess.
is signed Tess.
Oh, shoot. Well, I better get myself on down to that jailhouse and check on what's going on with my friend.
There's also a letter for Ailbh from someone named Seamus Silverkeeper, who is a cartographer in Nicomoy. Seamus keeps sort of a hot leads file for people who are looking for specific maps or maps to specific places and things. There's also, conveniently, an advertisement for the Stouts and Stubble Brewery pop-up that is temporarily making a home here in Nicomoy.
That's fantastic. That happens to share the name of my pub back home. I should say Seamus has got wonderful penmanship. Look at the curve on that C. That's incredible. And the S, I might use that on some branding when I go back home. That's excellent.
What would you like to do next?
Well, barring anyone else jumping to the fore, if I scan the room and see Arethor over there, I happen to hear word from around the guild that he knows his way around the law. So Rusty finishes off his pint at the bar, slams the bar down, adjusts the straps of his coveralls, wipes the hair out of his eyes, adjusts his red little cap around his horns, and strides over to Arethor and says, "Hey, Arethor, good buddy, what you up to this fine day?"
Well, I don't have a lot on the go at the moment. Why? Something that you need?
Well, I got a friend who might have found herself in a bit of a pickle with the law, and plan to head myself on down to the jailhouse. And if you didn't have anything going on, I sure would appreciate if you could come along and lend a hand.
Arethor stands up and sort of dusts off and kind of smooths out his kind of rumpled suit jacket and says, "Well, while I might not be allowed to practice in a courtroom per se, I'd be happy to help in any way that I can. Should we see perhaps if Ailbh would like to come along as well?"
Oh, sure. The more the merrier. Hi, Ailbh.
Yes.
What you up to?
Oh, well, not a lot. I didn't receive any letters today from any potential suitors, so I guess I find my afternoon rather free.
Well, that might be a shame for you, but it's a sure sign of luck for us. You want to come on, get a wander in and get some steps on down to the jailhouse?
Well, I think I would. What business do you have in the jailhouse there, Rusty?
Well, I got a friend. Hopefully she's not gotten up to too much trouble. I'm expecting to find her either on top of the jailhouse or in it. We'll find out when we get there.
Do we have a preference?
At this point, I'm willing to believe it might be a better matter if she's still in the jailhouse as opposed to having found her own way up to the roof. That feels like that might come with some additional complications.
Well, I'm happy to join you, and Ailbh will stand up from his chair to his full lofty height of 4 feet. He'll tighten the belt around his waist of his kilt and his fine cotton top, and he walks over to Rusty and, Arethor, it is a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you too.
Lead the way, Rusty, old friend.
And we set forth.
All right, so you start heading towards the jailhouse. It's a very, very festive feel in Nicomoy. There are declarations of love happening on nearly every street corner. These little birds are flying through the air. The paper origami birds are flying through the air, sending their messages of love and affection. It's really, one of those beautiful kind of celebrations of love. And there's clerics of the goddess of love on every street corner selling those little origami birds to send to your intendeds as you wish. So you arrive at the jailhouse, and there's actually 2 guards in front who are having what appears to be a very heartfelt conversation with each other, one of them holding one of those little birds. And just a quick kind of observation, would somebody like to roll a notice for me? The difficulty on this will be 4. Not too hard.
I'll give it a roll. Let's have a little look here.
Sorry, my mistake. Notice is not actually a general skill.
I was studying that. I was looking for notice. Sense trouble. Sorry about that. Notice is, I believe, an investigative tag, but you don't have to spend it on this.
Well, if Rusty's out in front leading the crew, I'll happily roll a sense trouble on this.
Yep.
Especially seeing as how it seems like Tess has already found her way into some trouble. And I will add just a point to this roll. So I'm going to spend one of my sense trouble points.
Yes, and normally I should not be telling you what the difficulty is on a roll like this for sense trouble, but in this case I flubbed up. Hey, GMs make mistakes.
We're all learning together.
That's right, GMs make mistakes.
If I remember from the rules, it says you can or cannot tell us. It's up to you, if I remember.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, 4 + 1 is 5.
Great. So, Rusty, as you're looking at the jailhouse, you see a familiar pair of antlers just barely peeking out above the rooftop. They seem to be shaking a little bit.
Oh, man. Oh, what? I'd like to kind of take in the scene. There's no discreet way of getting up on top of that roof that immediately appears to me. Is there, GM?
Not so much. I mean, the jailhouse is on a block with other buildings, so you might be able to get onto another building and do a little rooftop traversing, perhaps, or you could climb the side of the building. You are a minotaur, though. You are a bit heavy.
Yeah, I don't particularly feel like trying to clamber up there. I look around. I want to find the nearest cleric with those little origami birds.
Okay.
Want to see if I can arrange to have one ride along as a passenger on the back of another and send a little origami note to Tess, say that I'm in the street below and would like her to instruct me as to what in the heck she's doing up there on top of that dang roof.
So the cleric that you talk to is a slender elf wearing a gold gown, and they look at you and they say, "Who is it that you love the most?"
Oh, is that the way that this particular enchantment is powered?
Yes, our lovebirds go to the object of your heart's greatest affection.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, but I'm pretty sure that Ma Surehoof ain't going to be the one that can help me out in the midst of this particular idea that I had. So I thank you for your time, and I will excuse myself from this particular vendor.
Do you know who has great affection for your intended recipient?
That's a fair question, but not one that I know off the top of my head. Tess tends to keep her cards a little close to her chest at times.
Well, and they take your hand in theirs and press it warmly and say, "May love walk with you today."
Oh, thank you. May love walk with you as well. All right, friends. I turned to Ailbh and to Arethor. I can just see, and I kind of discreetly, over my shoulder, don't draw attention too much, but I can discreetly see the horns of my friend poking through up there on the roof. How we want to play this one, fellas?
Well, as they say, there's more than one way to skin a me, so perhaps we can even talk our way through. Let's just go chat with these guards and see what's about. Maybe they'll let us up onto the roof, just for fun. And Arethor will just walk over to the guards and say, "Good morning, fellows. Lovely day, isn't it?"
And the two guards who've been in deep conversation sort of turn to you, and they almost have hearts in their eyes, right? And one of them, you as you walk up, you hear him say, I had no idea that you loved me so much. I love you too. And the other one kind of turns to you looking, like I said, a little bit dazed and says, I'm sorry. Happy Love Day.
And happy Love Day to you. It's so glorious to see two people just realizing their deep and abiding affection for each other. I don't want to interrupt, but I'd love to get a look around. It's my first Love Day in Nicomoy, and I would love to really be able to see these birds flying around from a better vantage point. I was hoping my friends and I might get access to your roof to have a look. We figured what roof is safer than the roof above a very guardhouse.
And the two guards kind of look at each other, and one of them says, I thought there was some rule about that, but I can't remember it now. Of course, yes. Yeah, let me walk you up to the roof.
If you could just show us the way, we're happy to do it ourselves. I really don't want to take time away from what is clearly an important and burgeoning relationship.
And they kind of look at each other and they say, I mean, we could just give them the key. Yeah, I think you seem trustworthy. Sure. And they take a key off of their key ring and hand it to you, Arethor, and say, if you take the stairs, there's an roof access door, but you need a key.
And Arethor takes the key, like it's the most natural thing and normal thing in the world. Thank you ever so much. Do you want me to mark off a point of magic for that?
Did you use the voice for that?
It feels like maybe I did. But it's up to you.
Is Arethor always aware when he uses the voice?
Generally, yes, but it is
you
fairly
are aware
new
that you did not use the voice.
Okay.
For that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Head back. Well, all right. So I have the key to roof access. We could just walk up the stairs. It was really unusual. I thought for a second that perhaps I had accidentally influenced these guards with my voice, but it appears that I did not upon deeper reflection. So it feels like I was really, really successful, perhaps more than I should have been. They did just give me the key to the jail's roof. I don't know if it's a master key, but we can go up there.
That seemed mighty easy.
It really did.
How peculiar.
Certainly a fortuitous turn of events.
Indeed.
It really was. But let's go see your friend either way.
Lead the way.
And as you enter the jailhouse, the two guards, who are now holding hands, call Happy Love Day to you as you go through the door.
Is it I?
Happy Love Day to you. And so we'll head up. Have either of you been around for a previous Love Day? Is there something else? I feel innately suspicious of the goings. Look, I get along well with people, but this is unusual.
I've not had a love day per se, but as a brewer, I've made some concoctions, various things over the years, and I can see how that can sometimes influence behaviour, some would say. Not just in an intoxicated way, but sometimes it can innately change how they feel about things. It reminds me of that. There's something unusual here. I'm not saying that they've taken something, no. But it feels that they're being influenced in some way.
So in that moment, I would ask, Arethor has under academic the tag occult studies. Do I feel like there's an undue influence after Ailbh's suggestion?
Oh, yeah, something weird is going on for sure, but you can't quite remember which book you would have found that in.
Okay, yeah.
So as you go through the jailhouse, which is the kind of part precinct station, part temporary holding, So it looks very similar to how you would expect a medieval fantasy precinct to look. There's a desk sergeant and various suspects and witnesses being brought in to be asked questions, and definitely there's still a little bit of weirdness going on, as there's a few people who are talking about their feelings more than they're talking about whatever brought them to the precinct. But otherwise, it's fairly normal cop stuff, you know. And you go up the stairs. It's a 2-story building, and then there's the roof access. And the key works perfectly. There's no surprises or anything. And you come out to the roof, and Tess is kind of holed up next to the wall of the roof, looking not panicked, but a little stressed out, shall we say. And when she sees Rusty, she hops up. So Tess is a jackalope, so she looks like a rabbit with antlers, right? So she hops up and bounds over to Rusty and throws herself into his hopefully his arms, and says, "I am so glad to see you." I'm sorry. I am so glad to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too, Tess. What brings you to be up here on top of this roof?
Well, so first there was this book, and I was supposed to go get it, and then I was supposed to bring it there, and she starts rattling off this kind of convoluted story that is not terribly coherent, right? And it seems to come out a mile a minute. But from the gist of it, what you understand is that she was supposed to, quote, acquire a book for her employer. It's a freelance job, you know, like the usual kind of thing that you do to make ends meet and get out of trouble and things. And, well, anyway, it was in the Pepperton Estate Library, and I went there, and I didn't break anything, but I got in. We'll just say I got in. Okay? I got in? Right. Anyway, I got in, and I looked for the book, and wouldn't you know it? The book was gone. The book is missing. It was stolen already. Somebody stole the book before I could steal it, and I think that's unfair.
Acquire it, I think, was what you had said earlier.
Sorry. Also, my boss is going to be really mad if I come back without the book. I mean, really, really mad. He is not a nice guy to get mad.
So your boss sends you to get this book. It's not there, and then help me connect the dots here, Tess. How are you up on top of the roof of the jailhouse?
Oh, well, so I got caught inside the Pepperton Estate, and well, you know me, I'm fast and I've got the hoppy legs, so I just booked it out of there, but they were chasing me, so that's why I made the note and I sent it to you, but I didn't know if I'd be inside the jail or on top of it.
Got it. All right. Yes, I can see how the local law enforcement here would be the connecting those two dots. All right.
Right. Also, I figured this would be the last place they would look.
That seems like a wise decision. Certainly, I wouldn't have guessed that you would be up here until I got that note from you.
So
also, happy Love Day.
Oh, happy Love Day to you, Tess.
Just to be clear, Tess, and it's lovely to meet you. You had achieved access to the estate, but you were seen by the law there. You ran away successfully. Evaded
I was seen
arrest
by someone who works there, and then they called the law. And it was kind of big mess, yeah.
Okay, so you were seen by somebody who actually works at the estate, not by law officials per se. But in the interests of self-preservation, you chose to leave, have evaded any sort of legal trouble, but have chosen to hide yourself on the roof of the jail.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm wanted, but yes.
Right. Perfect. That sounds perfectly reasonable. Can you tell us anything about the book?
Oh, yes. It's called The Whisper Song.
The Whisper Song. Is this something we've heard of?
Well, as it turns out, both Rusty and Ailbh have heard of The Whisper Song. With all of your academic knowledge of herbs and botany, you both know it as a legendary, sometimes people might say even mythical, herbal textbook that has a number of recipes that actually work, like validated, bona fide, these things work and do what they say they will for brewing various types of potions.
The Whisper Song, you say? The Whisper Song?
Yes. Have you heard of it?
Aye. That's not a book you should be messing about with. Who is your boss? Why is he searching?
I can't tell you that.
Why not?
Oh, well, first of all, I don't know his real name. And second of all, I don't want to die.
Reasonable.
She just smiles winsomely like...
Yes, but yes, the Whisper Song, if you're not familiar, it's a textbook. It has all sorts of potions and maladies and various things. You can really do some damage with that book. You must be careful. One, in finding it, and two, who you give it to. Be very, very mindful. Happy Love Day, by the way, Tess.
Oh, also, where are my manners? Tess, this is my friend Ailbh, and this is my friend Arethor. Ailbh, this is my friend Tess Fleetfur.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
Pleasure, and I should have introduced myself, and I'll put out a hand and just take her little furry paw.
Yes. So, do you think you could get the book?
It certainly sounds like, based off what you said there, Ailbh, that this is something that we don't, if it has gone missing, at the very least, it'd be good for us to figure out who managed to get it before Tess did, and then perhaps we go from there.
That sounds reasonable, aye.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Let's at least figure out where it's at before we decide what to do with it.
When you were in the estate, young Tess, when you got to where the book was meant to be, did you see anything out of place? Was there anything that comes to mind?
Not really. I think it was cleaned recently.
Right.
Maybe we should find ourselves a way back to that Pepperton estate and have a little look around.
Seems logical, aye.
Scene of the crime is the place to go.
Okay, here. And she pulls out a couple of gemstones from her from a pouch and says, "This is how you get there. It's like magic, I think."
So this place isn't real. It's not on this plane of existence.
Oh, no, it is, just not here. I don't really know how it works.
I don't understand.
Well, it's not a house inside the city of Nicomoy?
Right.
Oh, right. That's quite
so you use
straightforward
these,
then, actually.
and then you get there, and then you can use them to get back.
Does it place us somewhere inside the house or outside of it?
Oh, I think inside the foyer.
I'm gonna grab one of the stones and just like, so what, you just like think about going, or is there like a command word? How's this thing work?
You and she like points them and says, you clack them together.
Well, like this, and I take it and I clack it together.
Yeah, so all four of you teleport to the foyer of a very nice looking mansion, and Tess looks terrified.
I was waiting for Rusty to clack them together and vanish by himself.
What else do we happen to see in this foyer? Is it just us?
So it is a marble floored foyer with a grand staircase leading upstairs. There's numerous rooms leading off of the foyer, and standing at the top of the staircase is a elegantly dressed, rather handsome, dark-haired man who kind of leans against the banister and says, well, thank you for bringing my little thief back.
I don't believe we have any evidence that there has been any theft. We are here merely as character references and to perhaps discover who actually stole from your estate on your behalf. Hello, sorry to introduce myself. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Arethor Goic, LLC, formerly. I was hoping we might be able to assist you and clear the name of our compatriot Tess while we were at it.
So,
Happy Love Day.
And to you, he starts walking down the stairs, very suave. He's got a very smooth move to how he walks even. And he says, "I'm Bonaventura Halavi. What is it that you really want?" And he looks at Tess when he says this, and then meets each of your eyes, and there's this almost mystical, you get the feeling that he's not just asking for politeness, right?
Well, I mean, I'm always looking for a way to utilize my legal skills. Is there anything else I should be looking for here, my friend?
Ah, a solicitor. And he holds his hand out and takes yours and says, "A pleasure to meet someone else in the craft."
Oh, are you a solicitor yourself?
Of type. You notice that his eyes are almost a smoldery reddish tint.
Ah,
Well,
curiouser and curiouser.
if you're asking what it is that we are looking for, or I'm looking for, at a personal level, I guess, the finest beer recipe in all of the land, and the means to make such a thing.
Oh, I see. Perhaps I can help you out.
Is that right?
Maybe. This recipe wouldn't happen to be in my book, would it?
What book would that be?
The book that was stolen. And he looks at Tess at this moment. That your friend here was so helpful in uncovering the theft.
I don't know if the recipe's in there. I've never read such a book. Possibly couldn't know what referring to. Forgive me, I'm quite taken with your eyes. I can't quite...
Oh, really? And he smiles, and it's like the most charming smile. Like, just oozes, I don't know, that feeling of like, wow, someone really pretty likes me. That just really rich. I don't know if this is a thing or not, but wow, it's senpai noticed me, that kind of feeling, right?
Sure. I'm not one for getting flustered easy. And he uncorks a little trinket that he has on him, a little tincture. Just takes a... Forgive me, your name was
Bonaventura.
Chura. Well,
Mr. Bonaventura, if one thing I caught in what you're saying there is that you like helping people. You and me are going to get along just fine. Because the thing I want most is just to every day get up and do my best to help the folk around me.
Yes, I do like to help people. Very, very much.
And if they're at all in like close range, Rusty wants to like reach out and do that kind of like hit him friendly in the shoulder type move.
Uh-huh. Yeah, his shoulder is like rock. It is solid. Just absolutely solid and a little warm.
You must have a mighty fine workout regimen there, Mr. Bonaventura.
I do all right. Now, let's talk about my missing book. I understand your little friend here, we'll just say, discovered my property was missing for me. Shall we?
Arethor's going to switch gears, seeing the way that Bonaventura here operates, and begins to flirt back, which as a player might not be my strong suit.
That's okay.
So I'm doing my best, but begins to flirt back
it's all right.
and sort of reaches out and just gently, makes some physical contact and touches his arm and says, "You're so gracious in allowing us to join you in your home unannounced, and I'm so grateful I've had this chance to meet with you and talk with you. You're a very interesting person. Perhaps you could tell us more about you or the circumstances surrounding this book." And I want to use my flirt tag for interpersonal investigation.
Absolutely. So,
and if I need to spend a point, I will.
You don't need to spend a point for this. So he will lead the four of you, because Tessa's still with you, into the library itself and says, "Well, I only recently acquired the estate with not all, but many of its furnishings and accoutrements. The library was in a state of, shall we say, disrepair. It needed some cleaning, and anyway, we had a crew come in. Hasty Hands, I believe, is the company. And there was a dwarven woman named Anya. To be perfectly honest, there were several dwarven women that looked almost identical. They were wearing uniforms. It was, well, I could pick her out of a lineup because she had the most unique scent to her.
Oh, I love a good scent. Could you tell me more?
She smelled like barley and yeast and hope.
Can you tell me more what she looked like? Dwarf myself, you see, so personal interest, we'll call it.
Well, blonde hair, fair skin, green eyes. A little taller than you, not much.
Accent similar to mine?
Similar to yours, but many of the dwarves from Cruller sound the same.
From Cruller, you say?
Oh, I'm quite sure that's where she was from. She had that accent. Same as yours.
I see.
Do you know her?
It sounds like you're describing my sister. My sister Leg.
I'm pretty sure her name was Anya.
Anya. Right. Well, it's just a mighty coincidence there.
Or that's the name she told me. I don't really know.
Well, of course. Who are we all really, I suppose?
There was a crew of 5, including a supervisor.
Interesting.
And they all dwarven women. I'm fairly certain Hasty Hands is owned by a dwarven proprietress.
Did she give a name at all, or are you familiar with whom that person might be?
Yes, Ginny Barrel Shoulder.
Barrel Shoulder. That's a mighty, mighty fine name.
Yes.
Barrel Shoulder. And I must ask, this book, let's not be around the bush here, we know what book we're all talking about here. The Whisper Song, isn't it?
It is indeed.
How did you come across such an artifact, such a mythical, legendary piece of prose?
I won it in a bet.
A bet?
Yes.
I feel there's a story here, Mr. Ventura.
A story for perhaps another time.
Oh, now. We're amongst friends.
Maybe over dinner sometime.
Well, are you buying?
Oh, of course.
Well, I'm sure I could make time for such an exquisite experience.
I would be delighted.
Do I feel like I'm being unduly influenced in any way?
Good question. What would you like to use to try to figure that out?
So I have a tag in interpersonal for charm.
Okay.
Feels like that may be appropriate, or I thought, no, that feels the most appropriate for me.
Yep, that sounds good. Aside from, yes and no. This person, Bonaventura, exudes charm in a way that is not entirely natural, but is also not entirely unnatural either. It's kind of like, if you talk to a succubus, this is what you get.
Noted.
So perhaps we're dealing with some sort of incubus.
Excuse me, Bonaventura, do you know, was the Whisper Song the only thing that is absent from your domicile?
Well, I do have very many things in, he gestures, in, as you say, call it, my domicile. But it's the only thing notably missing.
If I might ask, my friend, have you seen the Whisper Song at all since Hasty Hands has been to Clean?
No, but they were only here 2 days past.
I see, but you do know you had possession of the book prior to their visit, and no knowledge of possession of the book after their visit.
Oh, yes, I have a catalog of possessions that I acquired with the estate. Would you care to see it?
Oh, that would be very helpful, greatly.
I'll be right back. And he leaves the library with you in it and goes off to get the catalog. You have a few minutes to investigate the library without him there if you wish. Tess leads you to the shelf where the Whisper Song was supposed to be.
I'm going to make sure to kind of keep a close eye on Tess in Bonaventura's absence, just to keep her close and make sure that she don't get up to nothing that we'd have to deal with.
I imagine that Tess is the kind of person who picks things up and fidgets with them a lot, and so it's kind of a constant state of, did she put that back or not?
Accurate.
Ailbh's going to walk to the door where Bonaventura went out and almost stand watch from coming back in, almost to intercept before he gets further in. Can you good folks poke about as you need? I'll run some interference with our fine proprietor. He's quite a gentleman, isn't he?
Absolutely. I do have the notice tag for technical investigation, so I'm looking at the shelf where the book ought to be.
So there's definitely a blank space on the shelf. And not entirely sure how this is categorized, but this is a shelf of books about herbs and fungus and various things that grow in nature, plants, that kind of thing. So it's certainly in the right category, at least. You do see a number of other books that are rare, expensive, valuable, may even have other esoteric knowledge in them. This is one heck of a library, that's for sure.
Interesting. Anything with the shelf that looks like anything's been left or scuffed or dropped, or a piece of hair or something like that I might notice?
It is really, really clean.
Really, really clean? Yeah.
Really clean. Like, deliberately clean. These books don't even have dust on them. And when you take one out and like open it up and flip through, the interior pages have even been dusted.
Whoa. Okay. It almost seems magically cleaned. This is something perhaps... This is a very high level of cleanliness, almost as if the room has been scrubbed for evidence. That's at least what I would consider if I were to be prosecuting this case, or trying to defend Tess. I don't think... Tess, you seem somewhat mobile. Would you be able to commit to this level of cleanliness?
So Tess is on the other
up?
Yeah, Tess is on the other side of the room and has just picked up an ink pot, which she then drops and spills all over the floor. What?
Oh, no.
Yes, I do think this level of cleanliness might be beyond Tess. No offense, Tess, but this does seem somewhat different than your wiring, should we say.
None taken. She's picking up the now spilled ink jar and getting ink all over her hands and setting it back down on the table from which it came, and now there's ink all over the table as well.
I'm gonna take my bandana off and just try and like sop some of that up and clean up that mess as best I can.
Sure.
And while I'm doing that, I say, Arethor, something strikes me as a little bit funny about this. It seems that in conversation between what we've heard from Bonaventura and what we've heard from Tess, there's this sense of like, oh, maybe one of the dwarfs with the hasty hand cleaners might have pinched that book. But that book is just right there, kind of in a prominent place, really, in terms of where it's positioned. So if they were a hired group to come in and clean, and then one just walked off with it, like, it sure seems like it would be a pretty quick deduction to say, oh, that book is gone, and this group was just here, and now the book ain't, and so it doesn't feel like that fits quite right. Am I wrong?
You mean that he didn't notice it earlier?
No, it feels like a bad business model to say like, oh, we know that he knows that we were just here. He knew how to get a hold of us to hire us to clean. This prominent book is no longer there. It feels like that's 2 and 2 makes 4 real easy.
Yes, I agree. It might be too simple, but we should turn over every rock. The key is to alleviate any pressure on Tess,
that is
primarily. It's worth investigating anyway. What Arethor wants to do with remaining time is somewhat selfish, but surreptitiously is going to check this amazing library to see if he can find any book that might reference the voice, because he's still trying to figure out where this might have come from.
Okay,
So
I think
he
you
can
definitely
pocket
need
a
to
book
you need to
sneakily.
spend a investigation point for this.
Okay,
Something
so if I
appropriate.
do that, I've only got 1 point in academic and 1 point in technical. Most of my stuff is in interpersonal, which wouldn't apply here. So I think I'm going to use, because this is sort of going through books quickly, I think academic might make the most sense.
It does make sense.
So I'll spend my academic point.
So having spent that, you still are able to get core clues in academics. You just won't be able to spend for a non-core clue. Okay?
Yep.
So you sort of lose yourself a little bit in the stacks, and you come to a section that is very curious. These books are not simply set on a shelf. These books have chains. They're literally chained into the shelf. And as you're perusing them, many of them are in a language you do not understand. Many of them are in some kind of infernal script. And one of them is in a language that you only understand deep inside of yourself. And it says simply, the voice. Just as you're about to reach up and take it, you hear Ailbh talking to Bonaventura as he's returning to the library. I'll let you think about whether you want to take that risk for a second, because it will be challenging to get it off of the shelf with, literal chains on it.
Yeah.
For reasons.
Yeah, with him right there while it's chained to the shelf.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that probably in the interest of protecting not only the three of us, but Rusty's friend, Tess, I would leave the book there for now, with some knowledge that it now exists.
Yes. Ailbh. So while they've been talking about how difficult it would be to clean this library as thoroughly as it was cleaned, really, dwarven cleaners, why wouldn't you? Like, what dwarven housekeeper worth her beer would leave dust inside the books? I don't understand. Just kind of that. They seem to think that this is odd, but you're like, no, this was they did the job. This is the job. So a few minutes after they've been doing their investigation, you see Bonaventura coming back with a rather sizable ledger that is the catalog of everything that he acquired with the property. And he greets you at the door and he says, nice to see you here.
Mr. Ventura. He'll do in a sort of a louder than required manner.
Bonaventura. My last name is Ailbh.
Ailbh, my sincere apologies.
But you can call me Bone.
Bone? Oh, aye. Well, that's a nickname and a half.
I've been told.
I used to go by Brick when I was younger. As you can see, my face is rather rough, and perhaps I just need a softer touch to bring it back.
And he brings his hand up and touches your face very, very gently, but rather sensuously, and says, "Oh yes, it's very tactile."
I've been described many things. Tactile that's a new one to me. I must ask, how did you come to acquire such a magnificent property?
And
this library is.
He smiles at you and he says, "I won it in a bet."
Arethor walks out at that answer and just says, "We would love to hear the details of that bet. And I would like to pump some of my magic voice into this."
Okay.
I'll spend a couple of points of magic on that. Would you like me to roll?
Yes, please. And the difficulty on this, how many points? Don't tell me how many points you're spending yet. Let me set the difficulty. The difficulty on this to influence Bonaventura is 8.
8. Okay.
Yes.
I've maxed out my magic, but I don't want to spend it all in one shot.
Probably not.
But I will spend 3 points of magic so that on a 5 or 6 on the die, I can still get it.
All right.
But I did not get that.
Okay.
I rolled a total of 5, including my points.
All right. So as you like push the command through your voice, he smiles at you and he says, "Oh, I think we have a lot to talk about. Perhaps this can be a double date?" And he points to both you and Ailbh.
Arethor pulls at their collar a little bit and says, "Well, that would be brand new for me, but I'm not immediately opposed to the idea."
Who did you make this bet with? Maybe you don't want to give the details of the bet, I understand, but who did you win it from?
Let's just say an old nemesis.
An old nemesis, aye.
Yes.
Could that be the Pepperin fellow?
Pepperton?
Pepperton. Yeah, I heard something about this being Pepperton Estate, and I noticed that you did not give that as part of your name.
It's true. I did acquire it from someone calling themselves Pepperton, but that's a long story.
Nah, we don't have long.
I did bring the catalog, and he hands it to Ailbh.
And just start thumbing through, sort of taking it, maybe going halfway and just looking.
Very detailed. There's a lot in it. Some of it in the ledger is marked as having already been sold, and to whom it was sold. Furniture, books, art, provisions, food, everything from like the kitchen silverware all the way to, old clothing that was in the attic, just floor to ceiling, anything you can think of that would be in a mansion is either listed there as being sold or just listed with an empty bracket in the disposition.
Man, I'm going to look over the shoulder. I'm not going to touch the book, but just looking over the shoulder of Ailbh. Can I do some document analysis?
Sure.
Of this? Yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking? What kind of information are you looking for?
I want to see if anything in particular stands out from this book that might give us a clue of who the person was that maybe
that he got the estate
Bonaventura
from.
had this. Yeah.
So it's a real mixed bag of what's in this estate. I mean, a real strange mixed bag. I mean, it's, bag of gold, X number of pieces, statuary of, and then, some famous adventurer who mysteriously went missing 500 years ago. Who knew? Things like that. It's just a very strange, eclectic mix of things. I assume that one of the focal areas for you all is the catalog of books from the library, right? And as you're sort of kind of peering over the shoulder and while Ailbh is looking through it, you do notice that the books that were on the chains are not listed in this part of the catalog.
Why are you looking to sell so many of these artifacts?
Oh, I have very little need for them.
And this
is
everything in the estate? Everything currently in the estate is
everything I acquired is in here, yes.
So anything you might have previously owned or brought with you is not within this ledger.
Oh, yes. There's a number of my personal effects I've brought here for, we'll call it safekeeping.
I see. And the contents of the library itself is strictly acquired?
No. I've added my own personal collection. Did you want to see?
I'd be very interested, yes.
So he leads you to the books that are all on chains. He says, I have quite an extensive selection of books and tomes detailing various infernal and demonic practices, source books, information that is, as you can see, and he points to the chains, a bit dangerous for mundane scholars, but of keen interest to myself.
Ah, I see. And I sort of casually run my fingers along the spines of the book, nonchalantly stopping at the one that I know is called The Voice.
So, Ailbh and Rusty, you cannot read that title at all. Like, you're not even sure that it kind of gives you a headache to try to read the glyphs that are on that spine. Yeah.
No, I don't care for these books.
These books are probably like making the hair on the back of your neck go up, you know? Yeah.
And that's a lot of hair.
Yeah.
So after I've stopped, this one looks particularly interesting. Perhaps I might be able to work out some way of borrowing that, or perhaps I could come back at another time to read it here.
And he kind of smiles at you and says, I thought you might have an interest based on earlier.
Well, you know, I'm interested in topics of all kinds. Perhaps, you know, as I said, I could offer something in trade for a loan.
Type of interest, one might say. And he kind of smiles at you, this knowing, awful smile.
Arethor just sort of winks.
He winks back.
I could offer this as collateral, and I pull out a battered paperback romance novel, which is the only thing I have now.
So Bonaventura says, that won't be necessary. Perhaps after you have solved this disappearing book mystery for me, we could have a useful conversation about that knowledge that you seek. I am always happy to help people find their heart's desire.
Well, that sounds deliciously mutually beneficial.
Excellent.
We'd better find that book.
So to that matter, would it be fair, Bonaventura, to perhaps make the assumption that, you know, as you stated, the effects here in this library are a combination both of those that you acquired and also your own? Might the Whispering Song have been perhaps the pinnacle of what was acquired within the library collection?
I wouldn't say so. There are certainly more valuable books in that collection.
Yeah, I've just found myself, I was wondering, I know it sounds like you have a desire to keep your cards a little close to the chest on the fellow or the individual that you named was taking the alias of the former Pepperton owner of the estates. But if that perhaps was like a prize gem of their own collection, like I wonder how much they might be someone for us to look into or keep an eye on to see if they have managed to reprocure that book from their former collection.
Well, if they have, that would be surprising since, to my knowledge, they're penniless. And when he says that, Tess gets this look on her face like that was new information to her.
I don't know that this is at all something that the scope of investigative approaches covers, but the dots that connected in my mind, there's a curiosity about whether or not the unnamed boss that sent Tess to acquire said book might also be this penniless former owner.
Seems like a pretty solid connection to me. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I don't think Rusty is wrong to think that. If factually he's wrong, at least it's a solid connection. Yeah.
I'm just gonna look at Tess and give like a prominent like raised eyebrow.
She looks very nervous now, and she's been very quiet through this whole thing. I think she's maybe a little intimidated by Bonaventura. Can't imagine why.
Bone, might I ask, this company that you brought in, was this on your authority? You brought in Hasty Hands to clean in here?
Well, to be fair, my steward did recommend them, but we've used them before.
Oh, I see. And when you used them before, was it the same crew, similar crew that came through then?
I'm afraid I have no idea.
Oh, I see. You only talk to the handsome ones that come into your library. Is that fair?
Guilty as charged.
You said this was arranged by your steward,
Yes.
and this is a steward you've had for some time?
Oh, yes. Years. Centuries, even.
Are they about on the premises?
No, unfortunately, she is attending to some tasks for me elsewhere.
I see. Do you know when we might be able to speak to her? She might have information that is helpful.
Well, it could be a day, it could be 5 years, it could be 500 years. I don't quite know. He kind of shrugs. Sometimes she does her own thing, shall we say.
I see. Well, thanks anyway. If she should happen to turn up, please feel free to let us know, and I'll provide contact information for the Fire-Breathing Kittens Guild Hall.
Yes, I've met your guild members before.
Oh, any particular people that you're acquainted with?
Yes. Yes, but not necessarily in a positive light, shall we say. Some of my business endeavors have not sat well with some of the kittens.
Ah, I see.
We're all good now, so far as I know.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to hear you've worked it out.
Yes. Anyway, is there anything else or...
Quickly, before you go, is it okay if you leave the logbook with us while you go about the various errands? I assume you're a busy man.
He thinks about it for a moment and says, I don't think there's a problem with that. Yes. Right. Feel free. Just please bring it back for when you come for dinner.
Well, I think I can manage that, you know. Is there anything else missing? Is it just the Whisper Song?
So far as I know. I'll be sure to let you know otherwise. Have you had a good look through the library to make sure everything is accounted for and such like? Yes, I did a quick check when and he looks over at Tess, when I had reason to suspect something might be missing. And that seems to be the only thing missing from the library, but I have not checked the entire estate yet. That's a fair point. Is it only the library had cleaned? Oh no, the library was it was the most recent job, but I've had other rooms cleaned by the hasty hands before. And did they clean other rooms on this occasion specifically? No, but fairly recently, they cleaned out the conservatory. They did an excellent job. They worked the kitchen, I believe, and they worked in my study, but they didn't do as good of a job there. I have some things that are a bit frightening. It's all good, though. We worked it out. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, if that's all... What is it worth to you to have... yes? I don't mean to interrupt. What is it worth to you to have this book returned? You mean besides the loan of some very, very esoteric information to your friend here? Yes. Well, what is it you desire? There are some things in this world that I'm looking for. I mentioned before the recipe I seek and the means to do so. I'm aware of some incredible machines that can make all manner of, shall we say, brews, but... Well, how about this? Should you find the Whisper Song and you're looking for a particular brewing recipe, it most certainly is in there. I'm not sure making a bet with you would be wise given your previous success, shall we call it, in such matters.
This seems perhaps to be less of a bet and more of a gentleman's agreement.
A deal, you might say. And when he says the word deal, his eyes glow a little bit brighter red.
Wait, what's this? What's exactly the nature of this deal?
you find me the Whisper Song, and Ailbh here has the opportunity to copy out a recipe from it. And your friend here, Arethor, has an opportunity to peruse a very dangerous book. And what is it that you want?
Well, let's just put all things out there. I find it a little hard to kind of keep things all hedged back, and I'll just name it as it feels like the winds are shifting towards us lending you a hand at retrieving this book of yours. I have reason to believe that might be bad for my good friend here's health. I turn and look at Tess, and so I won't lie. I've got a vested interest in trying to make sure that she is going to be well and safe on the other end of however events transpire here.
So you want my protection for your friend Tess?
If that is the thing that makes the most sense for keeping her safe, happy, and whole, then yes.
I can assure her protection. Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, that was easy. I look at Tess. What's her vibe in this moment?
Tess looks terrified, but also rightly so. I mean, she's supposed to get this book for somebody else, and now it looks like we're getting it for this guy, but he's going to protect her, so 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Yeah.
Hypothetically, you've said I could copy a potion from here. What would prevent us taking the Whisper Song to the benefactor of young Tess here? I can copy the recipe out. She doesn't need your protection because she's given it to the person whom asked for it. And not only can I copy that potion, I could copy many others. Hypothetically, I'm not saying this is on the table, what would happen in such a scenario?
Well, I would be very displeased, and you would be abetting a theft. So, I don't know. Are you much of a thief?
A thief? No. I'm just clearing the air. We need to understand what is on the table here, And I mean, we're still going to go for dinner afterwards, so.
To be fair, I do not need to involve the law to get back what is mine. But I will if I have to.
It all sounds fair to me. Perhaps we should take our leave and do our best to find this book.
I concur.
I am counting on you all.
That sounds good. Let's shake on it.
He holds his hand out, and there is a finality to this handshake that is kind of spine-chilling. Like, you're pretty sure if he handed you a pen, it would be filled with red ink, so to speak.
So it's very much in line with Rusty to be all like, kind of both be forthright in this way and a little bit just like, we've all said what we need to say. But I like to also believe that Rusty wouldn't do something quite so foolish as this might be if there's weird hidden print things. Is there Might I use his bullshit detector tag in order to find out if there's anything else that has not been said that seems real pertinent here?
Sure. So I'm going to ask for a spend on this because this is not a core clue. You don't need to know this to continue to find the book. So, but go ahead and spend a point on your interpersonal. He's not lying, but he is concealing the fact that he is a devil.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's say that's concealed.
Yeah. I was gonna say it. Concealed feels like a strong word here.
Yeah.
Being coy about it.
Yeah. He is. You've just made a deal with the devil, literally.
Yeah, but like a fine deal.
But like it's a fair deal.
It's fine.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. Rusty will shake his hand then.
Okay.
Does he go to shake everybody's hand?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He will shake each of your hands because he's made a pact with each of you. His hands are they're like kid glove, they're soft and warm and there's still that jolt of like, oh, this is real. This is not just I'm a handshake. I've made a deal. Very well. I will see you all soon. And he looks straight at Ailbh when he says it and says, very soon. And he winks.
Ailbh flushes a little bit.
And
All right.
Arethor will look at Tess and go, right then, how do we get back?
Oh, yeah. And she points at the rocks that Rusty still has. Same way.
Do if before we make a jump somewhere, do we need to find out exactly where these hasty hand cleaners are coming from? Because maybe they didn't use fancy rocks. Maybe they might be a bit more of a local group.
Oh, they're located in the shallows of Nikomoy.
Oh, all right. Well, here we go.
And Ailbh, you know, the shallows is the colloquial term for a very dwarf-heavy neighborhood. It's called the shallows because, well, it's not like it's the deep.
The pools there, they go, well, not ankle deep, maybe calf deep for most, but for us it's down at our waist. We're not great swimmers as dwarves. I don't know if you know that. We're quite dense. We're heavy.
All right, so you click the rocks?
Yes.
All right. You find yourselves back at the fire-breathing kittens. You find yourself back on top of the jail, as I recall. That's where you used them last. And this seems like a opportune moment to take a quick break.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we are the fire-breathing kittens. You're listening to Rusty.
Hey, y'all come back now, you hear?
Ailbh.
I've made a new friend.
And Arethor.
I've never been this interested in a difficult-to-read book.
And we'll be right back.
And just as a heads up before we go, a reminder that here would be a moment where we would read a review if we had one to read. So if you've been enjoying this episode, make sure that you hop on to wherever you get your podcasts or watch your YouTubes. Leave us a review and we'll read it on air. It's a thing that might happen.
Today's mid-episode shout-out is, quote, I want to give a massive thanks to my best friend, Maria. Your friendship is a constant source of strength, and I'm grateful for your unwavering support. You rock, end quote. You can arrange for us to read your shout-out at firebreathingkittenspodcast.com. Did you know? We have paperback, ebook, hardcover, and audiobook adaptations of our adventures on Amazon and Audible. Is there an episode of FBK that would make someone you know smile? Well, telling them about it would help us quite a bit. Thank you.
And we're back with our fire-breathing kittens. We have Rusty.
Hey, y'all.
Ailbh.
What should I wear on my date?
And Arethor.
Well, lovely to see you again.
So the kittens had just arrived back from visiting the Pepperton estate. And
Would y'all like me to do a quick recap of events of the preceding half?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be good for all of us as we're seeking to untangle this web of deceit and intrigue. So scene sets on Love Day in Nikomoy. We found Arethor and Ailbh and Rusty all hanging out in the fire-breathing kittens hall, and mail was being received, as is tradition and habit for the Love Day. One of the pertinent letters being a letter that Rusty received from his friend Tess saying that she was in the jailhouse or on top of it. And so the trio of fire-breathing kittens headed out to the jailhouse. They get there, they find a couple of guards out front. Arethor talks his way into getting the key to the roof of the jailhouse. And in the midst of that conversation, we get this feeling like there's something strange going on in the air, like that was a little too easy, even for Arethor by his read of things. But we get that key, we go up on top of the jailhouse, we find Tess there. She lets us know that she had been hired to acquire the Whisper Song, a legendary, nigh mythic book of herbal concoctions and remedies from the Pepperton estate. And so she was there, but when she got there, the to acquire the book. The book itself was gone already. She was spotted. She fled in haste, and then she sent message to Rusty. We responded. She gave us a pair of rocks that she used to get there, and we found out those rocks still work. It took us right to the lobby, the full four of us. Upon arriving at the Pepperton estate, we were greeted by one Bonaventura Halavy, who was quite a remarkable fella. There was a little bit of palaver exchanged. He eventually leads us to the library, which we find is very clean, nigh on magically so. So we're looking over the library. We're recognizing where the book was missing from. In the course of us looking things over and having this conversation with Bonaventura, we find out that the Hasty Hands Cleaners, a dwarven outfit owned by one Ginny Barrelshoulder, was recently, 2 days ago, here cleaning out the library. There's one of the members of the cleaning outfit that seems to fit the description of Ailbh's sister, though the name doesn't match up. The name that was given was Anya, but that's not Ailbh's sister's name. So anyway, something to be noteworthy there. While we're looking around in this library, Arethor managed to spy a book that really caught his eye related to the voice, so that was something that seemed pretty interesting. Bonaventura came on back. He had grabbed a book detailing the list of things that he had acquired in this prior bet that he had received this whole dang household from. He was sure coy about the details of that deal as well as others, bets that he had made that allowed him to acquire such things. But over the course of our conversation, we determined that there was mutual interest in returning the Whispering Song to Bonaventura in order that he might allow Arethor an opportunity to peruse that particular book of his interest, as well as provide Ailbh with a recipe from the Whisper Song, and provide a measure of protection for Tess from the person that had initially hired her to acquire the book. And so, having struck that deal with Bonaventura, which I'm sure will not come back to bite us in the slightest, we click-clacked our magic rocks, zip back to Nicomoy, and we find ourselves there.
Great recap. Thank you, Rusty. So, we're going to skip to you are at the Hasty Hands cleaning service offices. You're standing outside. Tess has scampered off to make herself scarce for this part because she is just really hoping that Rusty will solve all of her problems yet again.
That seems fair.
Yeah. The Hasty Hands cleaning service is in the Shallows, which is a dwarven neighborhood in Nicomoy, so called because all the way up here on the surface, it's not that deep, is it? So, what would you like to do?
If I may, fellas, before we go in and speak to these folks at Hasty Hands, I do have a suspicion, if I might share it, just so I'm not alone in it. The Hasty Hands are dwarven, overly cleaned, perhaps compared to some of their other cleaning in the house, which is a great way to legally remove evidence. Additionally, now this is perhaps a bit of a wild theory, but we also have an unusual pop-up of the Stout and Stubble, which is, I believe, a dwarven franchise, and the over-easily convinced desirous guards, which may or may not represent a larger portion of the population. But if these things are connected, we could see theft by the Hasty Hands, a potion created that has either been intentionally or surreptitiously placed into the Stout and Stubble's product, which is now being distributed around town through its pop-up. Just a thought.
Sounds incredibly reasonable. There's a lot of coincidence. I'm not a great believer in coincidence, not when there's this many things that stack up side by side. So I'm inclined to agree.
It sure seems like these different disparate events might be entangled in some way. But shucks, if I can't figure out the why behind it.
Ailbh, What is a common indicator among the dwarven people that someone is romantically interested in someone else?
Well, they don't react like most folks would. The typical way, as I've found, speaking with the very diverse population here in Nicomoy, there'll be a lot of touching, there'll be a lot of politeness, there'll be gifts given, that sort of thing. But in the dwarven community, we tend to insult each other a bit more. The old stories from playgrounds where you'd pull on the girl's hair, that sort of thing. That's more of the indicator that somebody might be interested. They might poke fun at you, not in a nasty way. So it's always done with love, but they'll roast you, as it were.
So, as you are standing outside of Hasty Hands, you see that two dwarves are arguing very loudly, calling each other the kinds of things that would make your mother blush. And one of them even goes so far as to insult the other's beard.
Oh, well now.
Right.
I'll tap Rusty and Arethor in the arms. We might want to keep an eye on this. This might escalate. You do not insult another dwarf's beard, man or woman. You do not insult that beard.
It escalates until the two of them are just red-faced, and then one of them holds out their hand to the other, who takes it and says, "Well, you'd better just move right in then, hadn't you?"
Ella starts laughing heartily. They maybe took it a bit far with the insults there. They must really like each other. Oh, I thought that was going to kick off there. Bringing the beards
That
into
exchange
it.
went differently than I expected it to.
It's why we didn't get involved straight away. Sometimes these things play out. But, that's a bold move.
Arethor walks directly up to the two dwarves. Well, hello, my fine folk.
Oh, happy Love Day.
Happy Love Day to you as well. Might I ask, have either of you had the opportunity to check out the new pop-up in town? The Stout and Stubble.
Oh, is that over on Silver Street?
Is it?
Sure.
Yes, that seems to be the one.
Yeah, I think we got a growler from there. And the other one says, "Yeah, my ma'am stopped by there yesterday."
Well, and how long have the two of you been together?
They kind of look at each other, kind of take a step apart from each other. I mean, truth be told, I've had feelings for him for a decade. And he says, "I never knew. I've been in love with you for 20 years." They kind of look at you like a little embarrassed.
That's
short courtship.
It's great that you found each other, but just very fresh that you felt able to express this to each other.
Well, it is Love Day.
It absolutely is. Thank you so much for your sharing. I really do appreciate it.
Well, I guess we better go find a cleric.
Head back to the other two. So they drank the ale from Stout and Stubble just as and apparently have had deeply held feelings for some time, but have only just recently been able to express that deeply held desire, which of course reminds me of no one the way that it reminds me of our new friend Bonaventura, who seemed very interested in our deepest desires.
It's interesting you say that. I think should we head in and try and find these fine, forget their name. What's the name of the company that we're looking for?
It's the Hasty Hands Cleaners.
That's them. I'm intrigued at this Anya. I'd like to try and track her down. In the first instance, I think that would be helpful. And then we've got the proprietor, the Ginny, I believe our friend said. Yeah. No, so from a purely selfish point of view, this Anya sounds awfully like my sister. And it would be good to lay that to rest, that it isn't indeed her. To find Leg here would be unusual. She's back home looking after the family brewery. To be in Nicomoy, that's irresponsible of her, really. We came to an agreement that she would run it.
Well, no time like the present.
All right,
Shall
so
I
you
lead
head
the
in.
way?
The Hasty Hands Cleaning Company is a storefront, has, a few seats around a counter with a like an appointment book, and the rest of the main entry room is just filled with cleaning supplies, mops, buckets, rags, various cleaning substances, soaps and detergents and things that the crew will pick up and take with them when they need to go out on a job. You could see through kind of a doorway. There's like a back room where there's some tables and chairs set up for the employees when they're not actually out on a job. And as you come in, there's a red-haired dwarven woman seated at the counter. She looks up and she says, "Hi, how can I help you?"
We were just inquiring about a job that you recently completed. You're with the hands, yeah? The Hasty Hands.
Oh, aye.
Oh,
Aye,
fantastic.
Ginny Barrel Shoulder, at your service.
Oh, you're the owner, I believe. Is that correct?
I am indeed.
Wonderful. Well, listen, we're investigating quite a delicate matter. There's been a book been taken from an estate, the Pepperton estate. I believe you recently completed a job there. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yes, the Mr. Hallaby is quite the charmer, isn't he?
Oh, he sure is that. I've got a date with him coming up. I'm quite excited. But listen, this is sensitive, and I'm certainly not accusing anybody. Dwarf to dwarf. A book went missing from there, a valuable book. Did he discuss it with you at all? Did he?
No, he hasn't.
That's a shame. Listen, have you any idea about this book? It was noted that, one, you did an incredible job there. It was incredibly clean in the library. There's not a fingerprint to be seen.
That's dwarven workmanship, it is.
Absolutely. None better, I tell you. He mentioned another one. I believe she works with Anya.
Anya?
Another, yeah, a blonde dwarf, a little taller than me, green eyes, very fair of skin.
I don't have an Anya. Not on my rolls.
That's very interesting. Arethor, Rusty, I did get that name right, didn't I?
Yeah, well, ask her what your sister's name. Was it League?
Leg, yes. You don't know a leg, do you?
No, I can't say I do.
No, I wouldn't have thought you did, but it was just on the off chance. Did you work the job, or was it just your ladies who worked it?
Oh no, it's my ladies. I had Gillian Copperspeech, Modeda Underheath, Elga Warnacker, and Elsie Brewer. They worked that job.
Interesting. Are any of them around?
Just begging your pardon if I could interrupt one moment. You said Gillian, Modeda, Elga, and Elsie?
That's right.
See, that's and you said, did you go out on that job as well?
I did not. I had other tasks.
I turned to Ailbh and Arethor. I was like, I could swear that Bonaventura told us that there were 5 people plus the supervisor that all came out.
He did. That's my memory as well. Has
Arethor
somebody
walks
snuck
up.
in with them?
Arethor walks up to the counter for the first time and sort of greets and reaches out to take the hand of Ginny if she's willing, and says, "Look, it's between you and I. The pressure can get intense sometimes to ensure that a job is well done, and if I just seek, real information. We don't want any trouble for Hasty Hands in any way, shape, or form, but anything you could do to help us, out and then looks over his shoulder back at Ailbh and thinks about what he said about how dwarves flirt and turns back around and goes, "And for the record, it sounds like you've got rocks in your mouth." And I'll spend a point of interpersonal to see if I can get any more information out of her about this job that she might not be willingly sharing.
Okay, you don't need to spend the point.
Okay.
She says, "Well, let me make sure," and she goes and pulls up a scheduling book and says, "This should have the work order in it." And she flips to a page and she says, "Well, that's odd. The work order's gone. It should be right here."
Whose responsibility is it to?
Well,
make
it's
sure?
mine, and let me tell you, I'll be quite upset if I've made a mistake like this.
So nobody else generally has access to that book?
It's not like I keep it under lock and key, but who would bother?
I don't suppose the four lovely ladies that you had working at the Pepperton estate happen to be in shop today. We could speak with them.
Nah, it's well past noon. Most of my ladies are done by now. We do an early shift.
Right. I understand completely.
But I can give you their addresses if you want to go and be asking.
That would be absolutely lovely.
And she gets out a little scrap of paper and writes down 4 addresses for you.
Thank you ever so much. I really appreciate it. By the way, it might be time for you to do your eyebrows again.
Oh, you flatterer.
Is there anything else we want to get from this lovely, very helpful dwarf?
No.
The question that always comes to my mind, and I don't, new to the system, you've already leaned in with the interpersonal investigation, so I don't know that there's more to uncover. But if there's hanky-panky going on, surely and she were complicit, she would be trying to hide it. So is there a way to get a strong sense of whether she's on the level or, if she's also hiding some information?
Yeah. I'll say this counts as a core clue. You don't have to spend for it. You have bullshit detector, right?
Yeah, I got BS detector and I got intuition, which both feel...
she's on the up and up. In fact, she would be upset if if one of her workers stole, and B, she's already upset that she's apparently misplaced a work order. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And if you do find out what happened, do come and tell me. I'm a bit out of sorts myself over this. I've been forgetting things all day. But this, and she points at the scheduling book, this is unforgivable.
Did you say you've been forgetting things all day?
Oh, yeah.
And is that normal for you?
No, but, it's a holiday. It's easy to get in the festive spirit. She kind of gestures at a mug of beer on the counter. Must confess, I've had a little bit of a nipple this today.
Well, of course you have. But may I ask, where did you get it? The ale?
Oh, I think there's been a new brewery in town. Is that it? See, there's my memory again.
Down on Silver Street,
maybe
the Stout and Stubble. Does it ring a bell?
It does. I think I had a flyer from there.
Right.
Would you mind
Thank
if
you.
I have a look at your mug? Actually, I'd imagine there's still going to be a dribble in the bottom there. I realise it sounds weird, but forgive me. There is method to
she
my
passes
madness.
the tankard over, and it's like half full.
Oh, could I spend a point in technical sort of going into the brewing of it, trying to establish, is this beer, or is it beer with something else, or is it something else entirely?
So you sniff it. Do you want to taste it?
I'll sniff first.
Sniff it. Smells like beer. Definitely smells like beer.
Yeah.
Smells like good beer. Real good beer. Yeah.
Gonna put a sort of couple of fingers in. So, forgive me, I'm assuming you're not going to finish it, and just almost between the fingers going, sort of the texture, is it right thickness, viscosity, is it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, real downright familiar even.
I think there's only one thing, Arethor, Rusty, forgive me for drinking on the job, and I'll just, the littlest of sips, just trying to almost push it back and forth between the teeth, over the tongue, trying to get a good sense of the flavour.
Is your beer. 100%. This is your beer.
This is my beer.
Yeah.
Folks.
Yep.
This is my recipe.
And for just the slightest second, you are struck with just great feeling of camaraderie and deep friendship for Arethor and Rusty.
Do you know, I don't say this often enough with my kittens around. I really appreciate you folks. You know that. I'm glad you're on this job with me.
I appreciate you too, Ailbh. It's kind of you say that.
Yeah,
yes, it really is. Is sense trouble the right thing to notice that something is, or notice, I guess, to see that something is off about Ailbh's behavior?
I don't know. How
Since
well do
he's
you
had
know
the
him?
sip?
How well do you know him?
I mean, out of the game, I think it's our first time playing together, but I know the kittens all sort of know each other. So I would say we've definitely spent some time around the guild hall.
So is Ailbh particularly expressive, would you say?
He can be, yeah. He's fiery in his way. He doesn't tend to bottle things up. If something needs to be said, it's going to be said. The filter, he can use it. Definitely.
So I'm going to say
doesn't.
that you can spend for it if you want. You spend a point.
Would you want me to spend the point from sense trouble or from interpersonal?
This is less trouble. So this would be an interpersonal investigation spend.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Then, yeah, it seems odd.
How
Also-
are you feeling?
Also, Arethor, as part of that spend, you can't quite remember the name of the law office that Hop works in now.
I can't?
You cannot.
Okay. Even though I haven't had any of this beer. Interesting. Rusty, could you also go back in your memory? Is there anything you would normally... Do you see any gaps as you think about important places or people in your life?
Oh, let me cast my recollection back. What do I notice any gaps
really.
in memory?
No.
No, everything seems to be shipshape on this end.
Right. In the interest of full transparency, I made my living off my mind, and now I'm having trouble remembering the name of a set of law offices that are somewhat important to me and the most recent I worked with. And that's come on rather sudden. At the same time, Ailbh, you seem warmer towards us than you might have been before. And I'm wondering if this might be connected to the forgetfulness somehow of our lovely proprietress here, or of the warm feelings we're seeing all over the place. I'm not skilled with any sort of potionry, but could either of you perhaps find a way to detect something inside this beer beyond imbibing more of it?
I think that would be wise, and I will take it away as a personal mission to be a little warmer. In general, assuming we overcome this. There are two things I'd like to do. So part of my equipment, I've got a selection of potions and brews, harmful and helpful specifically. First one, would I or can I roll for one of those being an antidote of sorts that I can give to the three of us to make sure there's no gaps in our knowledge? But then secondary, almost like a kind of litmus test, something that I could pour a little bit of the beer into and it'll react in a certain way to say poisoned or otherwise.
So, yes to the second.
Okay.
For the first, I think you would need to roll for that. That would be one of your skills here. Probably maybe medic, or
I think that would be
maybe preparedness,
fair, yeah.
since you said it's for part of your kit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
And for the first, you actually for that one, you don't need to spend on it. I'll give you the results for that for the second one, for the testing the beer basically. For coming up with some sort of antidote. I'm gonna say, because this is sort of a unique concoction, shall we say? It's going to be a difficulty of 6.
Okay. I think it feels quite important that I get this. So I'm going to spend 3 of my preparedness.
All right. Go ahead and roll.
Okay. And we're 2 hours in. I'm going to make my first roll.
Yay.
It is a 1 on the 6, taking me to a total of 4.
All right. Well, so you make a concoction that you think is an antidote for a number of things. It may or may not work on this. And you give it to your pals. It will not be poisonous.
Okay. Folks, I think it might be an idea. There's certainly something going around. Take a quick swill of this. We should be at least protected in the short term from the worst of the effects anyway. And then as I'm handing that out, I'll do the sort of the litmus test. Pour a little bit of the beer into the concoction, waiting for it to turn purple if it is poisoned.
So it turns red.
Oh.
So it's been doctored, but not in a poisonous way.
I'll be honest, I don't know what red really means. That's an unexpected result. It's certainly been tampered with, but not with anything I was expecting.
Is there perchance, did your kit come with any kind of instruction manual we could peruse quickly that might give us some idea of what red means?
Do you know, I do have a few books here. Could I potentially thumb through sort of what herbal medicine is academic?
Yeah. So as you're kind of flipping through and sort of continuing this analysis of this adulterated beer, red in this case indicates that it's definitely been altered. It's not poisonous in the sense that it causes harm to the body. But it does seem to have a magical effect, some kind of charm effect. And it definitely, it doesn't seem to be like a horrific, overtake your free will charm. It seems to be just more of a like low grade mood alterer. It definitely has magic to it, though.
Folks, I don't know if it's worth us heading over to this little pop-up bar.
Say more about that if you would. Oh, say more about that if you would, Ailbh.
So, this has been altered. There's certainly a charm in there. It's not intended to hurt in any way, but there's been something added to boost the mood of the imbibed.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'd like to also just examine, I would like to examine the physical, like what the clothes, accessories, whatever that Ginny is wearing. Because my wondering is if I can see something that maybe looks like it's been featured or new or doesn't fit the rest of her aesthetic. Because she's been complaining of forgetfulness. I'm the only one that's touched her, and I also am feeling that I've forgotten something. So I'm just trying to see if I can spot anything. And while I'm doing that notice, I'll just say, is there anything you've recently acquired or been given that you might have with you?
Not that I can think of. Oh, she blushes. I did get a love bird, of course.
Oh, and that's
she produces
lovely.
The little origami bird.
Could you open it for me? May I read it?
Well, it's a bit personal, isn't it?
I assure you it's entirely about the investigation. I feel like you and I have a special bond, don't we, Elbows?
I suppose. She unfolds the love note and hands it to you, and it says, "You smell like feet."
Is it signed by anyone?
It's signed by Thorsten Barrel Shoulder. It's from me husband.
And you've just received that today, and it's the only thing that's new?
That I can think of.
Now, the player is thinking, if she was given something that makes her forgetful, she could have forgotten
She may have forgotten receiving it.
So is there anything with that notice skill?
Right. With that notice and everything, nothing stands out. She is wearing the Hasty Hands uniform, which is a green dress with a dark green apron. Remember, all of them wear pretty much the same uniform. Her hair is tied back in a green bandana, and she's, she has her hair braided in a fairly common dwarven style. Yep.
Okay.
Rusty, remind me, did you get an origami note today, or have you touched one at all?
Nah, I went and talked to one of them vendors, briefly thought about trying to use one as a means of communication with Tess, but I was informed that they are keyed to the person that you love most, and I didn't think that my ma would be able to help us much.
Well, I'm sure she could cook us up some mighty fine grub.
Oh, sure. If we were willing to make the trek back to the woods, I'm sure she'd welcome us with all kinds of hospitality, but for the purposes of our investigation, didn't seem...
Yeah, so it would certainly imply that there's something in the nature of the origami itself which is altering the mind. In addition to whatever's been put into the beer, there's multiple levels of charm going on here. Would be an assessment.
Were her hands, when I touched her before, were her hands soft or calloused, or
They're
do
calloused.
They feel
like
so they don't feel well lotioned?
No, they feel like a working person's hands, and not particularly, especially cared for.
Okay, I was thinking maybe if there was a lotion that she was using all the time, the forgetfulness could have passed to me that way. Right. Well, I suppose it's time to check out the brewery.
Okay. All right. So you head to the Stouts and Stubble pop-up. When you arrive, it is mid-afternoon. Stouts and Stubble it's basically taken over a empty storefront for a short period of time. The sign in the window says that it's only expected to be here through the end of the month, which is fast approaching. And you can, Ailbh, you can smell the beer. It's the smell of home, for sure. And as you approach, the door is locked and you don't see anyone inside.
It's middle of the afternoon. Doesn't that seem a little strange that they're all shut up for the day already?
Mm-hmm. There is a big sign on the window that says Happy Love Day, and a little smaller sign that says Be back soon.
I would like to use my infiltration skill to see if I can find a way in.
I know it's a dwarven lock, but
this is a skill. So
yeah, I know.
I don't own lockpicks.
All locks can be picked. I bet somebody does. Maybe with preparedness, you could have a set of lockpicks. What do you think?
I would spend a point of preparedness to have lockpicks.
So for this, it's not you'll spend a point. I'll tell you how hard it is to remember that you had lockpicks with you. We'll say it's a 4.
A 4?
Mm-hmm.
I will. I'll spend 2 points.
Okay.
Let's just make sure.
Yep.
I've got a boost. That is a total of 6.
You have a very well-made set of lockpicks on your person. Yep.
Lovely. Then I would like to use them.
Great.
With my infiltration skill.
Since you have these nicely made lockpicks, the difficulty to pop open this dwarven lock, which would normally be much harder, is now down to a 4.
Okay. I have a few points of infiltration. I will guarantee success by spending 3 of them.
All right. So you do.
And finish up with a 7.
Yeah, you don't actually have to roll when you do that. So there's no crit or fail, crit success or crit fail in Gumshoe. It's kind of nice that way. So you just use your quote key, and the door opens. By the way, side note, rules note, Ailbh might have been able to say with preparedness that he had the key too. Like, not lockpicks, but actually had the key, since this is clearly the pop-up for his home brewery. So there are multiple ways to get around any obstacle in this game. All right, so you...
I was considering athletics and shouldering through the door.
Okay, so you have the boot key. Got it. All right, got it. All right, so you pop open the lock and enter the pop-up. So first of all, Ailbh, this is definitely a pop-up for your own brewery, for sure. Like a little temporary shop selling your beer, your recipe, your ingredients, all of it. Now, what does the tap room here look like? Ailbh, what would it look like?
It would have a heavy, dark wood, maybe a stained oak, very thick, sturdy bar top. It's going to have... Everything's going to be very robust and thick and over-engineered. Everything's meant to last and take a beating. You know, dwarves, when they get to drinking, they're going to slam their fists and they're going to fight. There's going to be all sorts, and it needs to be able to stand the test of time. A little darker than most would like it. You know, it lacks that elven elegance, but it's homely. It's comfortable.
Yeah, and there's a hearth in the middle of the room that would normally be lit, but it's not right now. It's got warm coals, but that's it.
This is my pub, Arethor, Rusty. This is... Someone has taken the pub I have in Cruller and brought it here. I'm confused, to say the least.
Ailbh, as you look around, you do notice some things that aren't perfect. It's a recreation. You can tell. There's a few places where you're like, oh, that's shoddy workmanship because, you know, nobody spent 100 years carving that, or this is much thinner wood than it should be, and things like that. But for the most part, it's a good recreation, that's for sure. Yeah. And you know from your tap room at home that the brewing is done in the basement because that is a very well temperature controlled space.
I know. I said this is mine. There's something odd here, guys. This is off. This is mine, but it's not. What do you make of this?
Well, if it were yours, where would you be keeping the brews if we want to investigate what they've been making here?
Well, the back room generally do the brewing in the basement itself, but through the back, we need to keep those on hand for if one runs out, we need to be able to bring in the new barrel or the new bottles, whatever it may be. So just through the back here should be the stock that's intended to be used.
Right. Well, is there a cask or a keg in this room that looks like it's been started that we could tap and test?
There should be, just under the top there.
Oh yeah, there's several directly underneath the bar.
Are they labeled?
No, of course not. They have taps on them, but
Are the taps different from each other?
They are, but that's.
But maybe our good friend Ailbh, if it's your family brewery, you might know which beers the different taps are, or which beer they were replicating that you tasted, so you could find the right one for us to test.
Yeah, so you could grab a couple of glasses just next to you there. I thought, pass them over.
Well, hold on now. I think based off what we experienced before, we don't want to be drinking any of this
no,
ourselves.
I can tell by look and feel alone. Don't need to be drinking. Just the colour, the opacity, I should be able to tell you which one we looked at earlier.
And Ailbh has that kit that we could use to test and see if the strip turns red.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Hand some glasses over to Ailbh.
So Ailbh, you pull some taps, and one of them is kind of it's your equivalent of a lager. It's a thinner. Honestly, it's for humans. Let's face it. a thinner,
uninitiated.
paler beer, there's a fairly decent lembic that your family makes that's on tap here, and then there's your classic house brew that you the recipe for which you have worked for decades. Your family has been making for years, and you pull the tap on that one, and you do your test kit, and each of these brews tests positive for something. One of them tests positive for poison. Your home brew tests positive for that red potion, whatever it is. And the third one tests green.
So one poison, one red, and one...
And one,
something.
Yeah, and you're not really sure what that one means. Your books don't really tell you either. Green is usually associated with like outdoors things. Maybe it's for plants. Not sure.
Could I thumb through one of my books? I generally carry a book of botany and horticulture and the like around with me, just when I've got some downtime, I like to thumb through and learn. Would there be something in one of those books that it's a stretch, that might have some clue at least?
So it's not a core clue. Would you like to spend a point on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Spend a point of the academic.
Okay. So you flip through, and this brew apparently acts like an animal charm, like a catnip almost.
Skooma.
Interesting.
You guys ready to check out the basement?
I think so. Can I
would
disconnect?
want to sense.
Sorry, can I disconnect
trouble.
the barrels from the taps just now?
You
I
want to untap them?
I want to untap these. I want to make sure that no inadvertent drinking happens.
You do not have to roll to untap a barrel, Ailbh the brewer.
Quite frequently,
I
we
heard
sell
a
a lot
sense
of
trouble being asked.
Yeah, before
for.
we would go down into a back room or a basement, I want to do a listen. I want to do a check. I want to make sure we're not walking into a group of dwarves, including Ailbh's sister, with a book up to no good.
Okay. Let's see. This is... So sense trouble would normally be something I would call for when you're walking into trouble. I'm going to say this is infiltration. And I'm going to say that it's a 3.
Okay.
Because
I'll just goose it by 1 point.
Yeah, because despite this being a quote dwarven taproom, it was not made to dwarven specifications, and so it's not soundproof down there.
I finished up with a 4.
Okay, so you don't hear anything downstairs.
Well, it seems to be clear, so we can head on down without having to worry too much about any rabble-rousing we'd have to deal with.
Just
Okay.
mind your head on the way down. It's not meant for you taller folk. You might get a good bump on the bones, so just mind your step.
Yeah, Rusty.
That's helpful to hear. I'd hate to get stuck in the wood.
Yeah.
It's happened before, and it is embarrassing, let me tell you.
Rusty, how tall are you?
I'm about a good 6.5
Yeah.
feet or so.
So you're like folding in half to get down there.
Yeah. I'm about 5'5", but Arethor just drops to all fours.
Right.
Seemingly quite comfortably, and heads on down the stairs.
Excellent. Okay. So the basement brewing room is a veritable cornucopia of clues for you. So so as you are checking this room out, there's the normal brewing equipment. There is a still, which is currently not operating, but does have some thin residue in it. There's a number of bottles and like wineskins that are labeled. Some of them are labeled with like an X, like do not use. Some of them are labeled with a question mark. Rusty, as you're kind of unfolding yourself and looking around, you notice that there's a sizable shelf on which there's numerous canisters that, when you take a look inside, seem to have various types of sugars, both granulated. Some of them are not actual like refined sugar, but some of them are things like there's, some dried beets, and there's, a couple of fruits, and there's a jar of honey, and it's just different types of sugar that one might use.
Some of those sugars look unfortunate, Rusty. Do you?
Beg pardon, they look what now?
Can you pass those down? Do you
Oh,
know
yeah,
about
sure,
this
I
sort
can,
of stuff? This is unusual for down here.
Yeah, it's all kinds of sweeteners. It might stuff that you add into the brewing process at moments if you want to. I don't quite know the science of it. My mom handles that type of stuff back at the co-op. But I've seen brewers y'all add stuff into the mix at different points, right? I'm handing down these bottles, different containers of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ailbh, there's a number of different sugars that you would normally use in fermenting. Some of them are more or less useful. Beets aren't really that popular, but you can make a pretty decent brew out of that. Honey, of course, you use for mead. There's a number of different choices here. There's also a small shelf of books, which Arethor might be gravitating towards. I don't know.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Research, document analysis. It's all there.
I'm also very interested in the books. Rusty's kind of entering this like, it would be great to like piece together all the mystery of the how and the why going on. But right now, finding that book is going to ensure Tess's safety. And so it's like, all right, that if we do one thing down here, if the book is down here, we got to get it.
Right. Okay. So Arethor and Rusty, you two are looking at the books and papers, right? Ailbh, you are looking at the sugars mostly?
Yeah, it's sort of in the beer. We of course we have sugars that we want to ferment. That brings out the alcohol. To have so many unfermentable sugars here for a beer, this is unusual. Normally it's your ciders and your meads and the likes that you would see these, and we don't have that here.
Mm-hmm.
That I know.
Maybe we got a brewer with a sweet tooth. They're just down here snacking on stuff.
Well, that's certainly it.
So among the books, you find a book of flower lore with a bookmark on a page for the fairy slipper, which is a particular type of flower that grows often near fairy crossings, which goes right along with the map that you find of fairy crossings in and near Nicomoy. You also find a weird receipt from someone named Saxon Falwars for black nettlecap, and a very large quantity of black nettlecap for that matter.
Where was the place again? Sorry. That the receipt is from?
From someone named Saxon Falwars. SAXIMFALWARS.
Do we find, just on an off chance, a work order?
You don't find it down here. No.
Okay. And I assume that they would not have left the book itself.
You don't find the book
laying
itself.
around down here.
Nope.
Yeah. That would be too much to ask for.
Yeah. Ailbh, as you're looking at these sugars, and those are definitely test sample sizes of various brews, and you realize that there's markings on them, not just the X's and question marks, but actual markings, and you are able to correlate them to the sugars that are on the shelf. This was laboratory work. For sure. Mm-hmm. And most damning, you find your sister's cloak hanging by the back door. You know it's hers. You recognize the embroidery.
I'll straight to it without saying a word. Just lift it off. Just take a moment. It can't be. This is... No. It's unmistakable. This is... Arethor Rusty. This is my sister's. There are experiments going on down here. This is a copy of my taproom from home, and now I have my sister's cloak. I've got to... No, she can't be involved. No, not my leg.
Here's a wild notion. Is it possible that your sister has an unrequited love for someone here in Nicomoy, and that this is all a scheme in order to bring about a betrothal of sorts, or an announcement of that love?
I certainly hope not. We were at a party not long ago, and she seemed rather taken with a potential suitor. Not someone I approve of, I must say, but it could be.
Is there any chance that this suitor was not dwarven?
Yes.
Any chance he may have lived within the fairy realm somewhere?
I don't know his background, if I'm honest. We come across each other in the professional capacity. But no, if it was Alexander, Alexander's a dwarf.
The potential
McJohn's
suitor
a dwarf.
is a dwarf?
He is.
Now, my understanding is that some of those fairy folk, that there are shorter fairy folk. You're dead certain that Alexander is a dwarf and not just a short feller.
He is a short fella. I don't believe he's fairy. I've never seen any indication to that fact. I wouldn't discount it. I wouldn't discount the fact that he's a slime ball also. Many things could go into his genetics.
Right. Well, maybe there's something that might help us within these books I've found. And here I have the research tag under academic to sort of go through the books and the map and the and look at. So I'm looking for what fairy slippers are for, if they're just for marking fairy crossings or there's some other use. I want to know if the flower book also mentions the black nettle cap. And what that might be used for.
Is that one I can assist
there was a big order for it?
So it's an investigative. So this is core clue stuff. So you don't actually need the help, but you are definitely helping in the sense that you're like looking through as well. Marked on the map, because I'm gonna not have you chase down things that could be interpreted as red herrings. Marked on the map is something called the Molten Helm. In addition to the fairy crossings, fairy slipper it's a little bit like buttercups, it's got that sort of that shape, right? And there's sort of a fanciful, it is sometimes a fanciful way to serve a beverage. The black nettle cap, it's not in the herbalism. But with Rusty and Ailbh's knowledge of botany, they can tell you that it's known for hallucinogenic properties. And who knows what would happen if you brewed it into beer. Actually, there is a way to know what would happen if you brewed it into beer. It's probably in the Whisper Song.
Oh yes, that book we're looking for. I've been caught up looking for my sister.
I hate to say it, but I think we might find the two of them together.
I fear you are correct.
On the plus side, you might not need to copy down that recipe out of there. Your sister might have already taken that care of that for you.
Well, I'm not entirely sure I want this recipe anymore. I might seek a different one.
Right. Well, before we leave, we should give the place a good once-over, not only in the basement, but just around. I'd like to see if we can find additional evidence. Perhaps a work order that has been hidden from the proprietress, and if we're lucky, tucked away hiding space where they might want to stash a book.
All right, so you toss the place like really, really thorough. Do you want to spend a point for that non-core clue about that work order?
What would the point be in?
Probably
if it's under technical for notice or evidence collection. I have those tags.
I was going to say it would probably be under technical. Yeah.
Okay, I have 1 point in technical. I will spend it.
All right. You find the ashes of the work order in that hearth. With your evidence collection, you can sort of tell that that's what it was, but the details are you'd need magic to restore it. And no, shouting at it in the voice.
Only my magic was magic.
Yeah, shouting at it in the voice isn't going to help.
Well, I'll use that evidence collection skill to gather those ashes, so we could potentially have it reconstituted by one of the other kittens, maybe,
Or someone with alchemical magic.
or someone we can find.
Or someone
I have
with
alchemy.
alchemical. Yeah.
I have alchemy and magic.
Do you want to?
But if
do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got a few of the potions on me and brews, and I'll mix a few of them together and make a solution. If you, Arethor, if you wouldn't just mind dropping the pieces that you have just into the solution here, in theory.
oh yeah, it's all been very carefully gathered in like evidence style, and so I can put it back into your alchemical stuff without any difficulty.
And much like developing a photograph, you are able to get an image out of this, out of the brew that you make, the potion that you make. And it is indeed a work order for work on the Pepperton estate. The hasty hands were hired to clean the library thoroughly, very, very thoroughly. There's a particular note to not clean the chained shelves. And it's just, very briefly says, do not touch chained shelves. I will clean those myself. And then more notes. And indeed, Jillian, Modena, Helga, and Elsie were hired as the crew for it. And Jillian's name is circled, and you notice that her address is actually only a couple of doors down from here.
Well, perhaps we should investigate this circled dwarf who lives nearby.
So when you go,
This is Jillian.
I'm gonna make it nice and short. When you go and interview Jillian, she tells you that she does work for Hasty Hands. You notice that she also has blonde hair, but not green eyes. She has a smoker's voice, so which I can't recreate myself, but she speaks with this kind of a rougher voice. And she tells you that the day that she was supposed to be working, she came down sick. She had food poisoning, and she sent her neighbor Lig to tell her boss that she wouldn't make it in. I've been sick since then, though.
Have you had any new foods since then? And Arethor is sort of looking over at Ailbh also to see how he's handling the news of hearing that his sister is absolutely in town and was sent on the cleaning job.
Oh yeah, I ate at Lig's pop-up down there. She's a real nice girl.
Ailbh would be a little ball of fury at the moment. He doesn't know how to process the emotion of what's going on. Like the fact that his sister would be involved in such a thing, he can't make sense of it. Mm-hmm. There's clearly something deeper going on, and he can't begin to work out at the moment what that would be. Clenched fists, furrowed brow,
Do you happen to know where she might have gone today? I was hoping to get a pint, but I noticed they're closed. Everything's locked up. Do you know where they might be on this day of love? Happy Love Day.
Oh, Happy Love Day. She left 2 hours ago or so.
Do you know which way she went or where she might have been going?
She took the road. She took the street eastward. I don't know anything else. I keep to myself. I don't pry in other people's business. She's absolutely the kind of neighbor that pries in everybody's business.
Yeah.
You said that League's your neighbor. Which of these places is hers?
She points directly at the pop-up.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm assuming we took some stuff with us previously. I don't know if we said it explicitly, but if I look at the map of ferry crossings and where it's marked with the molten helm, does that line up with going east of where we are?
The molten helm is.
Right. I think we might have a lead. Perhaps we should follow that and leave this poor woman here to recover. I would recommend that you neither eat nor drink anything else you may have at home that you got from the Stout and Stubble. Just to be safe. We've heard some reports that their wares might not be entirely safe.
What? Are you saying that Leg Goldbeard sells tainted beer?
I think there may have been a mix-up. I would never say that
Who'd have
that
thought
the
the Goldbeards
Stout
would
and Stubble is
sell
generally not
tainted
trustworthy.
beer?
And that's the story she's going to have. Oh, no.
And then I'll use my voice
Yeah?
to say, but of course you'll never remember we were here or this conversation.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so because of this weird potion effect that's going around, I'm going to say that the difficulty on this is 4.
Okay, I will spend 2 points of magic.
Okay.
Which gives me a 6.
All right, you are successful. And she
All
says,
right, we've saved Ayla's brewery's reputation.
and she says,
Ella
well,
was going to react differently.
Well, I hope you find that poor girl.
Thanks, ever so much. As soon as we're out, I say, Ailbh, Rusty, if you look at this map, if she went east, the molten helm which is marked is that direction. I suggest we hop to it as quickly as we can, perhaps to intercept, if at all possible, and get down to the bottom of what's happening with Ailbh's sister.
That sounds like a great plan.
Ella's already walking.
in the course of the interview with Jillian, this is my bad for not having expressed this. She did say that Leg took a cart, a wagon, like probably not horse drawn, pony drawn. Anyway, so she's on wheels. Now, I know that this group does not have a whole lot of capability for driving, correct? So,
Correct.
knowing
We could hire a cab.
you could hire a cab, but knowing that Leg is on wheels and therefore stuck to the roads and apparently not in a big hurry, and you are on foot and in a hurry, you can take shortcuts. So you know that scene in Ferris Bueller? Okay. So what I would like for you all to do is describe for me how what is the creative shortcut that each of you want to set the scene for here. So Rusty, tell me about one part of the shortcut that you're going to take. Where does it take us through?
Yeah, the thing that leapt to my mind immediately is that somewhere along this route, there's like a part where we get to a spot where there's a bunch of carts or maybe some little shops, and just like toss my colleagues like over the crowd, just like whoop, and just vault over the scattered throng in a way that allows us to overcome that barrier and keep moving.
I love that. That sounds like an athletics toss to me. We're gonna put that difficulty. I'm gonna put that at 5 because you're tossing them as well. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Can I stop at the edge of it? I'm going to turn to Rusty and say, "You're going to have to toss me."
Yes. Yes. Of course.
You got it, brother. And I'm going to spend 4 athletics points just because I want to make sure. I'm tossing my buddies. I don't want to cause them any harm.
All right.
Make this go off without a hitch.
Auto success. Okay. Arethor, what's the next shortcut obstacle we need to get through?
Arethor is a social creature above all else. And so most businesses have not only front entrances, but back exits. And so what you see is a montage of Arethor entering business places and being really congenial with the owners and the customers, and just nonchalantly then walking through a back room and out into an alley, then through the alley into another back room and out through the, cuts across, 6 or 7 streets, goes through a couple of dressing rooms. And everybody is, there's a couple of shocked faces, but it all seems very smooth and doable.
Question: do you leave your business card as you cruise through these places?
Well, I don't currently have those.
Okay.
Because I can't legally practice law anymore because I've been disbarred. And I'm just getting in with the fire-breathing kittens. So maybe in a couple of places there's a business card that says like Arethor Gowick LLC, and the LLC is scratched out. And the address in Jishop, way far away from Nicomoy, is also scratched out. And it just says fire-breathing kitten associate.
Nice.
And has Fire Breathing Kittens Hall just scrawled in pen.
Okay.
In a blank space on the card. And so that's just dropped in a few places.
Excellent. Like, as you're cruising through this, like, somebody who looks like they could use some help for whatever reason. You don't have time right now, but later. So, let's see here. What would be a really good, I'm looking for our best option for a social skill. General skills don't really have a whole lot of social. You're supposed to role play. So, do you have an extra point in your investigation interpersonal skills to spend on that?
I could spend a point for my interpersonal. I could also make an argument for preparedness for having the cards and the wherewithal.
Sure. Okay, I'll take it. We'll take that also as a 5. Because remember, it's Love Day. People are especially inclined to like other people today.
A 5. I will spend 2 points of my preparedness because my pool is not as full as it used to be.
Sounds good.
And I failed because I rolled a 1, which gives me a 3 total.
Okay, so you all are slowed down quite a bit by some resistance you get from one of the proprietors, who is not pleased by the cutting through their establishment.
I will offset that with my charm tag and spend an interpersonal point if I can do that.
Yes, you're still slowed down, but you are able to get out of that sticky situation and keep going. Ailbh.
Imagine at one point we're sort of coming towards the edge of a town. We're getting a little bit more into the kind of wilderness, as you were. And we're sort of elevated and looking down, and we can see the road that we're following. It goes in a huge, huge arc round. So we could follow the road, or we could go as the crow flies here. We'll need to scamper down a little, and then that grass looks quite long. You two will be okay. I might need some help. I might have to follow in your footsteps as you carve your way through the grasses there. But I feel that we can cut a little bit of time and still keep near to the road.
Let's make it corn stalks, and Rusty's the only one that can actually see above them.
I wasn't trying to.
We'll go in
hurt
height
both of
order.
them.
Oh, well, we gotta make it a good hindrance, right? So,
Absolutely.
Ailbh, how would you get through that?
So it could be preparedness, either having something that can elevate my height, or something along the lines of athletics, which is a bit more, head first, carving through these stalks. And also there's a little bit of traversing down the steeper terrain as well. So I'm leaning towards athletics.
Okay,
as a way of being able to carve through.
Sounds good. I'm gonna say if these are rows of corn, we'll make that a 4 for difficulty. Yeah.
I'll spend a 4 from athletics, and we've been held up already, guys. We need to.
So you're gonna spend 3 points
here.
You only need to spend 3 because
of course.
minimum will be a 1, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Roll a 3.
Okay. So all right. So the 3 of you following, not really following the map, but knowing from the map where you need to go to intercept Leg, and you get there just barely as she is pulling up, and The Molten Helm is a ruined, ancient dwarven tavern. It's no longer in use, and in fact, it's kind of half buried under some rubble. And she pulls up, driving the wagon, and you see that she jumps down just as you call out to her.
Leg, what in the hell have you been doing?
And she turns. She says, "Ailbh, what?
Aye.
What are you doing here?"
Well, we're coming for you. What have you been doing?
She pauses for a long moment. Says, "I've been working. Working. That's the word." Mm-hmm.
Give us a book.
What book?
The book.
You can tell she's lying. I don't know what you're talking about. She said, she says like, "What book?" as she pulls the satchel on her, behind her, right?
I was going to stride towards her, beeline for the book first of all.
She, as you stride towards her, she pulls out a bottle and says, "Don't come any closer."
Keep going anyway.
Okay, she throws it at you. Let's see if she hits you.
Okay. So is this in the mechanics of it then? We roll off against each other until failure?
No.
Or
how
is this
much do you
different?
have in athletics? Like, did you start with?
I started with 7. I've
Okay.
spent 3.
Okay. So to hit you, she needs a 3 or better. Okay. Which she definitely got. I rolled a 6. So you are struck with a potion. Now, for damage, I roll a d6, and then I adjust it based on the weapon she's using, which in this case is a potion. It's not exactly like damage dealing, but it can do other things. So, okay, so you take no damage because I rolled a 1, but hold up, I need a d6. Okay. But the potion she threw at you is actually poison. So you do take 2 damage as the potion like seeps into your skin, and you like feel very suddenly sickened by it. Oh, sorry, wrong one. She starts dancing backwards. Rusty and
Arethor.
what are you doing?
Yeah, Arethor will use the voice now
Okay.
to say, "Give me the book," and then turns it off to say, "Rusty, restrain her."
Okay. So go ahead and roll. I'm going to say that it's going to be a 5 to overcome her absolute stubbornness as a dwarf.
I will spend 3 points of magic.
Okay.
That gives me an 8.
Okay. She throws the book at you.
Okay. I will attempt to catch the book on the fly. This is going to be
Good point.
great.
She throws the book at you.
I have 0 points in athletics.
So she hits you with the book, doing 1 point of damage to you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's health damage. Rusty, what are you doing?
I'd like to charge in low and kind of scoop her up off her feet, and just have her over my shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Because generally I find if people don't have their feet on the ground, it's hard for them to go anywhere.
All right. Okay, so you are going to roll. I believe this is scuffling. This sounds like scuffling to me, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
All right. And the difficulty to hit her is 3. So, or sorry, 4. She's, why is it 4? It should be 3. So the difficulty to hit her is 3.
I've got all these scuffling points. I'm going to spend 2 of them.
All right. So you're going to automatically hit. And even though what you're doing is not damage, go ahead and roll your damage. Just if you roll really high, you'll have caused her a little bit of harm.
That's a 4 on the die.
Okay. So you're going to bruise her up a bit, but it's temporary. It's not, but you do have her in the air, and she's kind of resisting, but like she is not in a position where she's going to get free any moment soon. All right. So, Arethor, you have the book.
Lovely. And it's got the appropriate title.
It says Whisper Song on the title, on the cover.
Right. Now, Where did you hear about the book? And you need to give us information if we are to help you in mitigating any trouble you might get into.
And you're not using the voice on her right now, right?
No.
Okay. She yells at Ailbh. Ailbh, the still, it's inside the helm.
The still.
Well,
why didn't you say so sooner?
I needed it, didn't I?
Could have called me.
Not for this.
Gotten yourself into so much trouble.
I believe you're going to have to fill us in.
There's a copper still that if you use it, you can, let's say you can influence people in the way that you are able to with your voice. You can get people to certainly do things, or you can make them feel differently, or all variants of magical effects when you use this still. It is...
And
it's not to be used.
It'll make the recipe work.
The recipe was fine.
Set me down, you big lunk, she says to Rusty.
Aye, Rusty, pop her down. She's not going anywhere.
All right, if you're fine with her being on her feet, I suppose I am too. Just don't go nowhere. Set her down.
And she points at this like half buried, rubble, and says, "I got the map from Shannon Silverkeeper.
From who?
Seamus Silverkeeper. He's a cartographer, a map maker."
Aye.
We've heard of him.
You have heard of them.
How did you... You're going to have to fill us in. Go back to the start. What?
Well, I'm sweet on Alexander McJohn, aye?
Aye.
Well, he didn't like me calling him a craggy-faced old dirt sucker.
Because he doesn't have a sense of humour, darling. You know the McJohns.
Aye. Anyway, I thought his love day, I could persuade him. And, well, anyway, the recipe isn't complete.
That's deeply unethical.
I can't believe you would do this for a McJohn.
Well,
the trouble you have caused,
I didn't mean any
you've
harm.
hurt people. You've hurt people, Leg. People in this town, they're forgetful. They're enamoured with the wrong people. There's poison going around, for goodness sake. I tested one of the brews.
Well, the poison was an accident. It was... That wasn't supposed to happen.
But you did it nonetheless.
Well,
And what of Tess, an innocent victim, who was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Who?
Yeah, you may not know who we're talking about there. Yeah, I think so long as we're continuing to frame her as an innocent victim in this, that's probably the best. Yeah, but what about all those other people who are just caught up in the shenanigans here?
It only makes them express their love. And what's the harm with that? It's love day.
Consent. You can't take over people's minds in such a way. At least let them make their own decisions. You can't essentially poison the whole city so that you can get a McJohn.
It's like beer goggles?
No, it isn't.
I think the key difference here, if I may get philosophical, is a person chooses to purchase drink. And depending on how much they choose to imbibe, they will have more or less beer goggles, as you describe them. However, what you are doing is, unbeknownst to the drinker, influencing their brain chemistry in such a way that their ability to consent to what you've already done is not enabled. Informed consent is the key. You're not giving them that opportunity. It's less about what they're expressing and more about what you're making them express.
What he said.
Yeah, ditto.
That's what the still does, though.
There's other uses in there. We can use it to heal people. We can use it to help them in different ways. People with mental illnesses, for example, we can push those devils out of their brain, but it's still their choice. It is a
little bit interesting to note, like, there's maybe some overlap here between what our friend Arethor is gifted to be able to do and, what the still or the this particular brew enables. Like, it's not a one-to-one, but, there's just some overlap in that diagram.
So, do you say that out loud?
I do. Yeah, no, that's in character.
Okay.
That's a character commentary.
Because I don't think she's aware that the voice was used on her, right? That's not that if people were aware, it would be a lot more problematic for you, right?
It tends to feel natural.
Yeah.
So somebody who knows that they're opposing the voice is aware of it, but they're aware of the fact that they did it anyway and it felt natural.
Okay.
We did that came up in our Good Society game.
So,
So
I think she...
Yes.
Well, I guess, do we even know? Like, you've been saying for the GM, oh, I'm using the voice. Is that a thing that even Rusty and Ailbh would have any awareness of? Like, I maybe wouldn't have character knowledge to even name that.
I probably play it a little bit close because I don't have full grasp of where it comes from or why I have it, just that it works. So yeah, is there hypocrisy in Arethor's argument? 100% that hypocrisy exists, but I don't think he is aware that he's being hypocritical. For him, it's like, this is a choice you made, whereas this happened to me and I use it so we don't have to fight someone. Or, right? Like, for me, the ends justify the means, and my ends are good, whereas the ends are to take someone's ability to consent away with Leg. So yeah, it's ends and means. But I probably haven't been like, hey, everybody, I have this weird primordial thing that I do.
Yeah. And I don't think it was ever explicitly named in the conversation between Arethor and Bonaventura.
No.
It was just kind of like, oh, this is a book that you're interested in.
Bonaventura
We don't know
could
why.
tell, but that's because Bonaventura's a devil who basically has that ability too. Like,
yeah, it was very subtext with Bonaventura. And then there is a history of me using the voice in my first session with Daggerheart to like cause elemental things to happen. But that's pretty rare.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Do you want to retcon that a little bit then, Rusty?
Yeah, I guess my hot take would be that if Rusty does not know that this is an ability that the Arethor has, magically speaking, I don't think he would make that comment. He would just yeah, I think we would just scrub that.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we'll wind that back and yeah.
And amongst all this, we have your friend Rusty Tess. It's just coincidence that she was hired to get this book, and amongst all of this chaos from my, let's just call her what it is, stupid younger sister here, making decisions on behalf of others.
Aye.
Shut it, you. You've done enough. One odd coincidence. We spoke of coincidence. Interesting. You, Leg, back to Cruller. We'll talk. In the meantime, Arethor, I don't know if we've got a deal to finalise.
Yeah, before you run off though, Leg, just real quick, we were just kind of curious about like the black nettles and about the what else, the fairy slippers and such. Is that a thing? Did I miss that? Did that get resolved, Arethor and Ailbh? That feels like an open ticket yet.
So if you look in the book, Arethor, you find, there's like a ribbon on a page that has a recipe for a love potion. And the love potion requires that you ferment black nettle cap with a sugar, and it's not clear which was the experimentation. And then serve it in fairy slipper. And that is supposedly effective. Now, if this were fermented in the copper still from that she insists is right there inside of the molten helm, then what sugar it is wouldn't matter. So, Ailbh, it's right there inside the ruins of this tavern. What are you going to do?
You two, if you want to return that book, which I suggest we do given the nature of the deal, please do. I need to recover this still. The power it can have to help people is immeasurable. I could make a beer that would literally cure people of ailment. Can you imagine?
An ale that cures ailments.
Look, I've no reason not to trust you, Ailbh. So why would you do this venture alone? We could accompany you. you can gather your still, and then we can return the book.
I'm comfortable with that. It was more one of making haste, brevity, if you will, that we can conclude this deal. But if we've got an hour or two to go through the ruin here, find the still, help me transport it back, because it's not light. We're going to have to use Leg's a cart here, and then turn in the book, by all means.
All right.
That seems fair to me.
So you're going to try to dig
Let's
in?
just make sure we put that book somewhere secure.
Yeah, you keep that close. You two, I trust either or both of you to look after that book.
I got an inside pocket here on my overalls. If you want me to just tuck it in there, that tends to be a pretty... People don't get in and out of there without me knowing about it.
And I'll be honest, I can't reach up there either, so it's probably... And more importantly, neither can Leg.
I don't have a particular objection, and gives it to you.
Okay. So so you spend some time digging through the molten helm. And when you finally excavate kind of the caved in roof, and you get into, guess what? Brewing hasn't changed in thousands of dwarven years. You need to get into the basement to get to the still. And when you get there, you find that there is no still. You can see where it had been installed on the floor. It was definitely large, but it was clearly removed and transported elsewhere. Do you want to spend a notice to get an additional non-core clue about this scene?
I'll happily spend a notice on that. But as Rusty's like looking around the room, he kind of nudges Arethor. He's like, honestly, I'm a little glad it's not down here. I was thinking about how heavy that thing would be to haul back up the stairs and onto the carriage. But as I'm saying that, I'm looking around at the room, get a sense of what's going on in there.
You find a small toolkit that was abandoned, probably when the still was removed. It is way too small even for dwarven hands. Maybe gnomes, maybe fairies. Something to keep in mind.
What in the world is this?
Yeah.
It's not here. It's gone.
Arethor, you got some delicate fingers. Come over here, pick this up. I'm worried I'm going to crush it if I just try and grab it.
I'll walk over, I'll pick it up, and if I can also sort of identify that they're gnomish or it gets filled, or fairy gets filled in for me by Rusty. The idea that it could be fairy kind of twigs for me, and I'll take it over to Ailbh and say, Ailbh, this is your quest, not mine. These tools, if they are fairy, perhaps you should also take along the map of the fairy crossings, as well as you can have this book of flower lore. I don't think I have any use for it anymore. Perhaps those will help you. And I swear the cartographer mentioned I've heard his name before. Oh God, if memory serves, you were telling us about your mail, and there was something in there from him for you. But I think you should have these things in case they aid you in your quest.
Aye. I appreciate it, Arethor. You're a good friend. You're a shrewd kitten.
Yeah, much thanks.
Ailbh, do you remember the letter that you got from Seamus?
So there was a hot leads, wasn't it? There was an ad for the stouts and stubble in it.
Well, there was an ad, and then
thought.
there was separately, Seamus had sent you a note saying that he may have a lead on something you're interested in, a map for it, which clearly Leg also received.
Got the same.
Yeah.
Very good.
So you have recovered the book. You have, as you come back upstairs, you see that Leg has already left with the cart. She's escaping whatever passes for consequences at the moment. You'll have to catch up with her later. But it's just going to make the next family dinner really awkward is really what's going on there. But you are able to make your way back to Nicoboy and return the Whisper Song to Bonaventura, who settles in for sharing information with Arethor about, or lets you spend some time with the book about the voice. You can interpret what that knowledge is if you want. If you want some suggestions, you learn about the primordial nature of the voice at the very least. So where it came from may still be a mystery, but you learn more about it and how it can be used. Rusty. Bonaventura offers Tess a job, a real honest job, as the form in which his protection takes.
Does she take it?
I think she does. She'll probably screw it up, but for now she's, employed in...
At the very least, for the moment, it's the right play.
For the moment, she's safe, right? And then Ailbh, you have your date with Bonaventura, your dinner date. He is incredibly charming, and you can decide how far that goes. And in the course of that, he tells you about a little-known game called Xandrathal that dragons are known to play. And that's how he won the Pepperton estate. There is an impoverished dragon known as the Ancient One that kind of is not happy with him right now. We'll put it that way. Lost everything.
That was a dragon, you said?
A dragon known as the Ancient One.
The Ancient One. And I was promised a recipe from the book. I would be keen.
Is that the recipe that you want, or is there a different one in this book that you're interested in?
I would like the healing brew, if you will. A rival of mine recently created a brew somewhat unethically. He seemed to have put addictive substances in there to improve his sales rather than helping people. I wish to go the other way and actually help people. Sales would follow as a consequence of that rather than being the primary factor. But yes, there's a healing brew recipe I understand is in there, and that is what I wish to take from it.
So, looking through the Whisper Song, he points out there is a healing brew in here, but also here's a potion that counteracts addiction. Which recipe interests you more?
It's quite the offer that you've given me there. I think I must stick with the original. As tough as that may be, the healing brew can do more broad help, I believe. Yes, I'll go with the healing brew.
Okay. And the so you have attained a recipe for this healing brew. One of the things about the Whisper Song is that most of the recipes have at least one ingredient that's not clearly defined. For example, the one that Leg was using says a sugar, doesn't say which one, right? So you'll have to experiment a little bit to figure out, maybe take a little time to do that. But I'm sure you're up to it.
And I'm sure in a future quest, we will find out just that answer.
There you go. All right. Thank you all for playing. I hope you had a good time. And thank you, listeners, for listening. We've been playing with Arethor.
Goodbye.
Rusty.
Oh, heck, I bet I could have asked for that Bonaventura to throw in some cash as part of this.
And Ailbh.
Drink responsibly.
Bye.
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 On Arts Educators Save the World, we talk with artists and their mentors to discuss the transformative work that happens in arts education. We began with Lin-Manuel Miranda and his elementary school music teacher, and mine, Barbara Ames.
The direct education we got from Barbara, it was life-changing.
And since then, we've spoken with Cecily Strong, Josh Radner, Annalie Ashford, Robert Lopez, and so many others, each with their mentors. Join us again as we begin Season 2 of Arts Educators Save the World, available everywhere.